Chapter 92. The cause of poisoning. Yes, it was her. The medicine apprentice's eyes were awash with panic at the mention of jail. He raised his hand and pointed at Shi-Er. No, it wasn't me. Seeing the apprentice's finger accusingly pointed at her, Shi-Er instantly fell to her knees. However, her hands fluttered in denial, her voice vehemently contradicting his claim. Observing her denial, the apprentice grew more frantic, hurriedly speaking up. Miss, you were the one who bought 2 taels of arsenic from me. I even asked you then why you were buying so much arsenic, and you said there were rats at home. You arrived at noon, one remember it clearly. No, it really wasn't me, one didn't. Whether it was or wasn't, we will know by asking the gatekeeper. Seeing Shi-Er persisting in her denial, Jiang Peihuan spoke up calmly. Despite her words being directed at Shi-Er, her gaze remained fixated on Jianmai during the entire exchange. Even at this point, there was no hint of panic in Jianmai's eyes. Witnessing this, Jiang Peihuan's brow furrowed. No need to call anyone, I instructed Shi-Er to buy the arsenic. Miss Jian, was it truly you? Jianmai's sudden admission caught everyone off guard. Meeting their stunned gazes, she kneeled in front of Jiang Yuan, bowing deeply. As she lifted her face, her eyes were wet with tears. Lord Jiang, one know the madam didn't want me to join the household, so one resorted to this strategy. I've been deluding myself. One understand the deep bond between you and the madam. In that case, please forget about that night's event. Let's pretend as if nothing has happened. One will leave the mansion soon and bid you take care. With these words, Jianmai, her face streaked with tears, turned to pack her belongings. Jiang Yuan, watching her receding figure, spoke up, you don't have to leave. 111 accept you into the mansion today. Father. Upon hearing this, Jiang Ruyun was taken back. She moved forward, subconsciously about to protest but was promptly held back by Jiang Peihuan. A moment later, Jiang Yuan had cleared the room of everyone. Big sister, why did you stop me earlier? Second uncle has obviously made his decision. Do you believe a few words from you could change his mind? Listening to Jiang Peihuan's words, a surge of anger filled Jiang Ruyun's eyes. Jianmai clearly framed my mother intentionally. How could father even think about welcoming her into our household? That's exactly what we need to investigate. Seeing Jiang Ruyun's darkened expression, Jiang Peihuan spoke in a low voice. Jianmai's entry into our household is inevitable. Instead of brooding here, it would be better to find a way to console your second aunt. Also, Jianmai must have ulterior motives for getting close to our uncle. Once she enters the house, you need to have people keep a close watch on her. Big sister, I'll remember your words. After tormenting for so long, the sky was about to turn bright. After parting ways with Jiang Ruyun, Jian Peihuan went back to her own plum garden. After that point, Jian Peihuan was no longer sleepy. Sitting down on the chair in the living room, Jiang Peihuan was thinking about Jiang Mai. There was one thing that Jiang Peihuan could not figure out. Jiang Yuan, though conservative in his ways, was far from foolish. She couldn't fathom why he would still accept Jian Mai into the family after uncovering her scheming tactics. Miss, have some ginseng tea. You woke exceptionally early today. Yu-Er offered a cup of tea, her voice soft and soothing. Jiang Peihuan reached for the tea, but as she was about to sip it, she felt a twinge of pain in her head. Miss, are you not feeling well? Yi Xiao, who had been standing quietly nearby, asked gently upon seeing Jiang Peihuan massaging her temples. My head aches slightly. Perhaps because one rose too early, she responded. Miss, one know a massage technique that could help. Shall one? Yes, please. Jian Peihuan really felt a headache. Under Yi Xiao's arrangement, she lay down on the couch. Sitting behind her, Yi Xiao applied gentle pressure to her head. Soon, the tension seemed to ease, replaced by a growing drowsiness. Miss, it would be beneficial to sleep a bit more. It can help ease the headache, suggested Yi Xiao. Yes. Relieved by Yi Xiao's words, Jiang Peihuan felt her body relaxing. Yi Xiao continued her massage until she heard steady breathing, signifying Jiang Peihuan had fallen asleep. Only then did she cease her movements. Seeing this, Yu-Er quietly draped a blanket over Jiang Peihuan, then, lowering her voice, she turned to Yi Xiao. you truly have a knack for this, helping Miss get a good sleep. Eldest Miss is overworking herself. Coupled with 2 nights' lack of sleep, it's no wonder she has a headache. Once she has rested, she will feel better. We should step outside for a bit, Yi Xiao suggested, to which Yu nodded in agreement. The two of them cautiously stepped outside. Just as they emerged into the courtyard, they noticed Lu rapidly approaching. Catching sight of them, Lu quickly asked, "Where is eldest Miss?" "Keep your voice down. The young miss is asleep." Upon hearing this, Lu instinctively softened her tone. Noticing the flurry in her eyes, Yu gently inquired, "What's going on?" "Isn't it the issue with Fang Garden? Second Master is planning to welcome Miss Jen into the household today and asked Second Madam to supervise the affairs. However, Second Madam had a major quarrel with Second Master and returned to her maternal home. So, with Second Madam returning to her maternal home at this point, isn't she making way for Miss Jen? It's not Miss Jen now, but Aunt Mai." The entire Jiang was buzzing with Jen Mai's news, but this didn't concern Jiang Peihuan. Perhaps due to sheer exhaustion, Jiang Peihuan slept a long time. When she opened her eyes, it was already afternoon. "Miss, you're finally awake. If Yi Xiao hadn't told me that you were just asleep, one would have called for the doctor," said Yu who had been vigilantly staying by the bedside. Seeing Jiang Peihuan open her eyes, she promptly set aside the embroidery she had been working on. Feeling much refreshed after the nap, Jiang Peihuan, hearing Yu's voice, asked softly, "What time is it now?" "It's nearly time for dinner. Eldest Miss, please freshen up. Let's get ready. We have to attend dinner at Fang Garden tonight." At Jiang Peihuan's puzzled look, Yu briefly recounted the incidents at Fang Garden and whispered, "Old Madam Jiang has given her blessing for the Second Master to bring Aunt Mai into the Fanuki. So, this evening at Fang Garden can be seen as a celebration." Grandmother agreed to second uncle taking a concubine? Jian Peihuan was not surprised by other things, but she was really surprised that the old madam agreed to this. Not only did the old madam agree, but also asked third madam to assist with 2 nights' dinner preparations to make it a bit more festive. "Yu please go and find a suitable congratulatory gift." Chapter 93, Aunt Mai. Upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan's eyes briefly flickered before she turned to address Yu. An hour later, Jiang Peihuan accompanied Yu to Fang Garden. As they approached the entrance, they were greeted by the sight of a jubilantly decorated interior. Once they stepped inside, Jiang Peihuan noticed that almost the entire Jiang family was present, with the exception of Jiang Hong and Jiang Ren. Elder sister, Jiang Xijin and Jiang Songbai had already arrived. Seeing Jiang Peihuan appear, they promptly approached her. Jiang Peihuan scanned the room but didn't see Jiang Ruyun. Turning to Jiang Xijin, she asked, "Where's your second sister?" "I'm not sure where she's gone. The eldest brother went to find her. I'll check on it. You two stay here." Seeing many people who were acquainted with Jiang Yuan, Jiang Peihuan quietly instructed Jiang Xijin and Jiang Songbai. After both of them nodded in agreement, Jiang Peihuan headed towards the backyard. Jiang Peihuan searched high and low but found no sign of Jiang Ruyun. Just as she was about to head back, she noticed Jian Mai, who was all dolled up. Jian Mai had shed her previous innocent look. Now, she was wearing an exquisite orange dress, and her hair was adorned with a multitude of intricate accessories, complicated. "Young miss. Aunt Mai." Hearing Jiang Peihuan's form of address, a flash of disgust crossed Jian Mai's eyes. Even though she quickly hid it, Jiang Peihuan captured that fleeting emotion. "I didn't expect you to come, miss. I was under the impression that you harbored a strong dislike for me. Why would I hate you, Aunt Mai? What have you done to warrant that?" Despite Jian Mai's provocative tone, Jiang Peihuan remained calm and collected. Recalling Meng Yi's advice, Jian Mai's face changed slightly. She advanced until she was just 2 steps away from Jiang Peihuan, then spoke in a frosty tone, "Miss, are you curious as to why Jiang Yuan and the old madam agreed to welcome me into the family?" "Aunt Mai, are you willing to tell me?" Jiang Peihuan was genuinely curious about this. Especially since the old Madam Jiang had given her consent, It made her even more intrigued. Do you know my family background, miss? I do. You, too, are a daughter of a noble house, and your father was a general under my father. You're aware of that? At Jiang Peihuan's response, surprise flickered in Jian Mai's eyes. But soon, a smug expression took its place. Eldest miss, you only know that my father served under the Grand General, but did you know that my father also saved Jiang Yuan's life? Jian Mai's father was actually Jiang Yuan's savior. This was indeed something that Jiang Peihuan did not know. But now, Jiang Peihuan understood why old Madame Jiang agreed to let Jiang Yuan and Jiang Mai enter the family. Seeing Jiang Peihuan silent, a triumphant look took hold in Jian Mai's eyes. Miss, given this history, Jiang Yuan will go to great lengths to treat me well. If he doesn't, although your father is the lifesaver of second uncle, if second uncle finds out that your intentions aren't so pure, I fear he won't be as lenient. Jiang Peihuan gently cut her off before she could finish. Shocked, Jian Mai looked at Jiang Peihuan, masking her surprise with a sarcastic chuckle. I'm not sure I understand what you're implying. Do you really not know, Aunt Mai? The deal between you and Meng Yi, or should I say, with the Prince of Qing? With every word that Jian Peihuan said, Jian Mai's expression became uglier. However, once Jiang Peihuan finished, Jian Mai appeared unfazed. She looked at Jiang Peihuan and said, Eldest miss, all this conjecture, but it's merely hearsay without any proof. You don't have any evidence. You're right, one don't have any evidence yet, but remember there are no walls without ears. From this point on, I'll be watching you, Aunt Mai. Any action against the Jiang family won't go unnoticed or unpunished. As her words hung in the air, a sudden smile lit up Jiang Peihuan's face. Jian Mai seethed, about to retort when Jiang Peihuan called out, Second uncle. Huan what brings you here? Came the voice of Jiang Yuan. Today is a joyous occasion for you and Aunt Mai, so I've brought a small token of congratulations, Jiang Peihuan replied warmly. At her cue, Yu stepped forward and opened a box, revealing a beautiful white jade bracelet within. The box opened, revealing the white jade bracelet inside. Upon seeing the gift, Jiang Yuan's face softened. Your thoughtfulness warms my heart. Yuna is already having fun in the front. Go join her. Nodding to Jiang Yuan, Jiang Peihuan, accompanied by Yu, took her leave. As they left, Jian Mai glared at their retreating figures, her hands clenched in tight fists. But when she turned to Jiang Yuan, she wore a soft, loving smile. My dear, she murmured. Come, today is our day. We have many guests waiting, he replied. Yes. In the courtyard. Jian Peihuan had just walked into the courtyard when she saw Jiang Ruyun, whose eyes were red. There are quite a number of people here today. No matter what, don't let outsiders laugh at you. Hearing Jian Peihuan's words, Jiang Ruyun's eyes turned red again. She looked at her and said in a low voice, Elder sister, my mother has already gone to my maternal grandfather's house. After such an incident, it's good to let second aunt rest for 2 days. Don't worry, your marriage with the Cao family has already been decided. No matter how angry second aunt is, she will come back to handle your marriage. Under Jiang Peihuan's comfort, Jiang Ruyun managed to calm down somewhat. But, seeing Jiang Mai shadowing Jiang Yuan, tending to his every need, a spark of fury still ignited in Jiang Ruyun's eyes. In the past, Jiang Ruyun would have charged straight towards them. However, remembering Jiang Peihuan's caution about avoiding public ridicule, she clenched her fists tightly and retreated to the solace of her room instead. Eldest sister, second sister? Looking at Jiang Ruyun's back as she left, there was a hint of worry in Jiang Xijin's eyes. After contemplating for a moment, Jiang Peihuan responded softly, Go check on her. Comfort your second sister a bit. Understood. Jiang Xijin followed in the direction that Jiang Ruyun had taken. As for Jiang Peihuan, she chose not to linger in the aftermath of the ceremony. She headed straight back to her haven, the plum garden. From then on, an additional member graced the second branch of the Jiang family, concubine Mai. When Jiang Peihuan returned to her plum garden, it was still early. However, a faint aroma, cold yet comforting, permeated the air. This unique scent belonged solely to Xiao Nanye. Sure enough, Jiang Peihuan pushed open the door and saw Xiao Nanye sitting on the chair. As expected, upon opening the door, she found Xiao Nanye perched on a chair, engrossed in a medical book that she frequently read. "You're back. I've been waiting for you for quite some time." Hearing his voice, the man set the book aside. A strange sensation filled Jiang Peihuan's heart as she took in the familiar rhythm of his speech. "Today my second uncle accepted a concubine. Hence, I attended dinner at Fang Garden." "Accepted a concubine?" "If my memory serves right, I senti there a rule in your family that a man can only take a concubine if he's childless by the age of 40. But your second uncle, hasn't he already fathered a daughter?" Published at the 30th of August, 2023, 7:19 and 38 seconds AM. Chapter 94. Chapter 94. Unafraid of getting beaten up again if audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 94. Unafraid of getting beaten up again. It's a long story, she started. "Well, let's make it short." The man turned and looked at Jiang Peihuan with a curious look. If not for the man's familiar face, Jiang Peihuan would have thought that the person in front of her was pretending to be Xiao Nanye. However, seeing the man's interested look, Jiang Peihuan quickly explained everything to him, including stuff about Meng Yi and Xiao Juanhao. As Jiang Peihuan spoke, Xiao Nanye was quiet, listening carefully. When she finished, his expression was calm and there was no surprise. Looking at the man, Jiang Peihuan had to ask, "Did you already know all of this?" "I knew a bit about Xiao Juanhao, but one didn't know that his people were close to your father." This was something that Xiao Nanye wasn't aware of, and even Jiang Peihuan wouldn't have known if it wasn't for something that happened in her past life. Seeing Jiang Peihuan's silence, Xiao Nanye spoke softly, "So, you're worried that your second uncle's new wife might do something bad to the Jiang family?" "Yes, one don't know what her backers are planning. If I'm guessing right, Xiao Juanhao probably sent your second uncle's new wife to spy on the Jiang family. But, if you're still worried, I have a way to help you solve this problem completely." "What's that?" "Kill her." As soon as Jiang Peihuan finished speaking, Xiao Nanye replied directly. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan was lost for words. Looking at the man, she spoke softly, "Even if we ignore the special circumstances of Aunt Mai, if we kill her, won't there be others? We can't just kill everyone who comes. Then there is another way." Jiang Peihuan didn't respond, opting to gaze at the man in silence. Meeting her questioning look, Xiao Nanye continued, "A thief can only steal for so long. But no one can be on guard forever. So, to deal with this, all you need to do is allow your second uncle to fall into their trap a few more times. 1 or 2 instances, and he might still feel indebted due to the life-saving favor. But if it occurs too often, even if your second uncle wants to be considerate, your father would object." Hearing Xiao Nanye's words, a light flickered in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. After knowing that Jian Mai was sent by Meng Yi, her initial thought was to guard against and monitor the woman. She hadn't considered allowing Jian Mai to expose herself. Nevertheless, she had to admit, Xiao Nanye's strategy was quite brilliant. "Your Highness, let me change your bandages first." While she spoke, Jiang Peihuan had already grabbed a bottle of medicine from the vanity table, a leftover from Xiao Nanye's visit the previous night. She placed the ceramic bottle on the table, gently unwinding the handkerchief around the man's injured arm. The wound was showing signs of healing. Jiang Peihuan carefully smeared on the medicine, followed by wrapping a fresh handkerchief around the treated wound. "It's all right now. The wound is healing. Try not to disturb it for a couple of days." As Jiang Peihuan was still talking, Xiao Nanye unexpectedly bent over, lightly kissing her cheek. He quickly pulled back. The fleeting kiss, light as a dragonfly touching water, felt like a feather landing on Jiang Peihuan's heart, causing a tickling sensation. "You!" She lifted her gaze towards the man in front of her, utterly startled. Meeting her eyes, Xiao Nanye couldn't resist circling his arms around her neck. However, Jiang Peihuan reacted swiftly this time. Before the man could lean in, she forcefully pushed him away. Immediately, she drew out her waist-length whip. Seeing the whip lunge towards him, Xiao Nanye quickly retreated. The stool he had just been sitting on was now in pieces. The man promptly darted out of the door, glancing back at the woman by the entrance. He chuckled softly, "Huan are you planning on murdering your own husband?" Upon hearing Xiao Nanyes' words, Jiang Peihuan remained silent, but her lips curled up into a smile. Seeing the smile on her face, Xiao Nanye was stunned. At that moment, Jiang Peihuan flicked her wrist, and the whip on the ground surged towards his face. A gust of wind raced past his nose. Xiao Nanye watched as the whip whizzed past his face, his expression shifting as Jiang Peihuan lunged at him. Realizing Jiang Peihuan was serious, Xiao Nanye no longer dared to underestimate her and began to engage in the fight. From a tree nearby, Han Feng, hearing the commotion, quickly opened his eyes. Upon witnessing the unfolding scene, he was stunned. After a moment's hesitation, he silently stayed where he was and pretended not to see anything. Afraid of hurting Jiang Peihuan, Xiao Nanye didn't dare to take out his folding fan and was forced to evade barehanded. Soon, his wrist got entwined in Jiang Peihuan's whip. Before he could react, she kicked him onto the ground. Who dares to barge into the general's mansion? As Xiao Nanye fell to the ground, the entrance gate to the plum garden swung open. Leading the pack was Deputy General Liu. King Cheng? Looking at the person who fell to the ground, Deputy General Liu's eyes widened in surprise. Xiao Nanye clutched his chest, wincing in pain, a grimace appearing at the corner of his mouth. "Miss, are you all right?" Deputy General Liu could tell at first glance who was in a predicament. Yet when he approached Jiang Peihuan, he still softly asked her. Upon hearing Deputy General Liu's words, Jiang Peihuan shook her head, "I'm fine." Following this, Jiang Peihuan descended the steps, looking at Xiao Nanye as he got up from the ground. She said in a soft voice, "It's getting late, Your Highness. You should head back." If it weren't for the constant throbbing in his chest, Xiao Nanye would have believed that the kick he just received was only a figment of his imagination. "Deputy General Liu, all of you should return and rest." "Yes, miss," came the response. After saying this, Jiang Peihuan headed straight into her room. Once the door was shut behind her, she touched her face. The warmth from his touch seemed to linger on her skin. Outside the room, seeing Xiao Nanye scaling the wall to leave, Han Feng hurriedly followed him. Observing Xiao Nanye seated on Zui Yun's back, he couldn't help but ask, "Master, what on earth did you do to make the miss so furious?" Recalling the tender sensation from moments ago, Xiao Nanye's lips curled up in a smile. But upon hearing Han Feng's question, the man cast a frosty glance at him. "You're quite the loyal shadow guard, watching your master get beaten and not stepping in." Han Feng was left speechless. "Master, you can't blame me. When you and the miss got physical, I didn't know whose side to take. It seemed wiser to stay out of the way, avoiding getting caught in the crossfire of an immortal battle." Xiao Nanye just looked at him coldly, choosing not to respond. "Master, will you be coming back tomorrow night?" Hearing Han Feng's question, Xiao Nanye gripped Zui Yun's reins tighter and gave a nod. "I will." Upon seeing Xiao Nanye's nod, Han Feng appeared at a loss for words. Was he truly unafraid of getting beaten up again? However, it won't be in the night, it will be during the day. "You're going to climb over the wall in broad daylight? Aren't you scared that the general will throw you out?" "Why do I need to climb the wall? Can't I just use the front entrance?" Chapter 95. Delivering betrothal gifts. Upon hearing Xiao Nanye's words, a wave of confusion swept over Han Feng. However, the following day, he soon understood why his master could confidently stride through the main entrance. The second day, early morning. At the general's mansion's gate. "All of you be careful." This was personally prepared by His Highness for the young miss. Han Feng quickly came to the aid of the attendant who nearly bumped the box into the door. Being used to clandestinely scaling walls with Xiao Nanye every day, Han Feng found this open, daylight entrance a bit jarring. But in proposing marriage, wasn't it customary to enter through the main gate? In the plum garden. "Eldest sister, go and take a look. King Cheng has prepared so many gifts." Just finishing her morning training, Jiang Peihuan saw Jiang Xijin sprinting towards her, eyes shining with excitement. Hearing her sister's words, Jiang Peihuan was puzzled. Yu walked forward and whispered, "Eldest Miss, His Highness King Cheng has come to deliver the betrothal gift." On hearing the man's name, Jiang Peihuan involuntarily recalled the kiss from last night. She couldn't tell if her rising temperature was due to the aftereffects of training or something else entirely. "Eldest sister, you should change your clothes quickly. Father and mother are waiting for us in the main hall." As Jiang Xijin spoke, she turned to Yu, "Help eldest sister pick a prettier dress later." With Jiang Xijin's urging, Jiang Peihuan was led straight into her room. Shortly after, Yu pulled out 2 flamboyant long dresses from Jiang Peihuan's closet, one in emerald green, and the other in sapphire blue. The emerald green dress, embroidered with green bamboos, radiated vitality and youthfulness. The sapphire blue dress, adorned with patterns of auspicious clouds, conveyed an ethereal elegance. "Miss, which one do you wish to wear?" Examining the gorgeous dresses, Jiang Peihuan scrunched her brow. "These are too intricate. I'd rather wear my everyday clothes." "Young miss, today is the day His Highness comes to deliver the betrothal gift." "You?" "Yes, I'll go get it." Yu instinctively tried to persuade her, but, seeing Jiang Peihuan's resolute face, she held her tongue, turned, and left with the dress in hand. However, looking at Yu's back as she left, Jiang Peihuan seemed to reconsider. In a low voice, she said, "Never mind, to avoid the hassle, bring me the blue one." "Yes." Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, a spark of surprise lit up in Yu's eyes. As if fearing Jiang Peihuan might change her mind, Yu swiftly brought the blue dress for her to change into. "Young miss, you used to dress too plainly. Look at how beautiful you look today." Yu, standing behind Jiang Peihuan, meticulously helped her fix her long hair. The reflection in the mirror revealed a beautiful girl with striking features. The sapphire blue dress made her fair skin look even more fairer. Jiang Xijin sat alone in the courtyard and waited. When she heard the sound at the door, she turned her head subconsciously and saw Jiang Peihuan walking out of the room. Jiang Xijin's eyes sparkled with joy as she playfully circled Jiang Peihuan, landing 2 playful punches on her. With a broad smile, she complimented, "Eldest sister, you look incredibly beautiful in that dress. All right, let's go." At Jiang Xijin's words, a soft smile broke out on Jiang Peihuan's face. Both of them headed towards the grand hall. The main hall of the general mansion was buzzing with activity. Apart from old Madame Jiang of the house, nearly all the important members of the general mansion were present. Even the newly designated Aunt Mai stood beside Jiang Yuan. The grand hall and its entrance were swamped with boxes, yet more kept coming. Xiao Nanye sat calmly at a table with Jiang Hong and Shui Yang, enjoying his tea. At this moment, he heard familiar footsteps. Xiao Nanye subconsciously put down the teacup in his hand and turned to look at the entrance. Jiang Peihuan saw countless boxes along the way. She wondered if Xiao Nanye had virtually cleared out the Cheng mansion. "Father, mother," Jiang Peihuan moved forward, giving everyone a respectful bow before shifting her attention to Xiao Nanye. Just as she prepared to greet him, she heard his voice, "Huan you look extraordinarily beautiful today." Upon hearing his voice, Jiang Peihuan subconsciously turned head to find the Jiang family carrying on as usual, and she realized only she could hear his words. She glared at the man sitting on the chair, but the latter did not care at all. Instead, his smile only seemed to deepen. "Huan, you truly are fortunate. These betrothal gifts are nearly overflowing." The person who spoke was Zhu Rongfang, who had been brought home by Jiang Yuan late last night. Initially, Zhu Rongfang was quite satisfied with the Cao family. However, faced with the spectacle of gifts, a hint of jealousy crept into her eyes. Upon seeing this, Jiang Ruyun quickly nudged her. "Mother, please stop." Zhu Rongfang wanted to retort but swallowed her words upon seeing Jiang Ruyun's stern face. However, Zhen Mai, standing nearby, smirked, "The second miss has just gotten engaged. I wonder how many betrothal gifts the Cao family will bring." Everyone frowned upon hearing this. Despite the tension, especially with Xiao Nanye present, the Jiang family had to swallow their pride. Xiao Nanye, however, wouldn't stand for it. Turning towards Zhen Mai, he inquired coldly, "This lady seems rather unfamiliar. Who might she be?" In response, Jiang Yuan started, "Your Highness, this is my concubine." Interrupting him, Xiao Nanya ordered sharply, "Even a concubine dares to speak out of turn in front of me. Han Feng, slap her." "Yes, sir." Before Jiang Yuan could finish, Han Feng's hand had already made contact with Jian Mai's face. Jian Mai was left dazed, but Han Feng's actions didn't cease. As a shadow guard, he harbored no sense of sympathy for women and didn't hold back. After a series of harsh slaps, blood began to trickle down from the corner of Jian Mai's mouth. However, Xiao Nanya still had no intention of stopping. As they witnessed the scene, the faces of the Jiang family displayed a mix of emotions. A grimace marked Jiang Yuan's face, while Zhu Rongfang looked gleeful. Noticing Zhu's clear intention to stir up trouble, Jiang Ruyun tugged forcefully at her hand. Realizing she too had spoken out of turn, Zhu Rongfang hastily retreated 2 steps. "Your Highness," began Jiang Hong calmly, seeing that Jian Mai was about to lose consciousness, "today is the day of your betrothal gift ceremony. I beseech you to show some restraint, for my sake." Upon hearing his future father-in-law's plea, Xiao Nanya smiled, "Since the great general has spoken, we shall leave the matter be. However," he continued, his gaze turning towards Jiang Yuan, "when I visit the general's mansion in the future, I would rather not see her." When he said this, Xiao Nanya didn't look at Jiang Hong. Instead, he looked at Jiang Yuan. Meeting Xiao Nanya's gaze, Jiang Yuan swiftly replied, "I understand your wishes, Your Highness." Following this, Jiang Yuan glanced towards Shi-Er, and Jian Mai was promptly escorted away. A heavy silence hung over the grand hall. Everyone present dared not utter another word carelessly. It was at this moment that they truly recognized the identity of Xiao Nanya as King Cheng, the imperial uncle, ranking second in the entire kingdom. Then, except for Jiang Hong and his wife, everyone's gazes shifted towards Jiang Peihuan, filled with a newfound mix of awe and apprehension. Published at the 30th of August, 2023, 7:19 and 36 seconds AM. Chapter 96. Chapter 96. Searching for information. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 96. Searching for information. General, Madam, we have run out of space in the courtyard, but we still have numerous boxes outside. Where should we place them? Deputy General Liu's voice shattered the quietness of the main hall. Hearing his words, Shuiyang pondered for a moment before responding, "Move all the remaining boxes to the plum garden." "Yes. Great General, Madam, I've heard that the views in the General's mansion are quite exquisite. May I have the honor of seeing it?" Although he addressed Jiang Hong and his wife, Xiao Nanya's gaze remained unwaveringly fixed on Jiang Peihuan. Upon witnessing this, a smile danced in Shuiyang's eyes. Before Jiang Hong could utter a word, she chuckled softly, "Absolutely, you're most welcome." Finishing her words, she turned her eyes to Jiang Peihuan, "Huan why don't you guide His Highness on a tour?" "Yes, Mother." Next, Shuiyang glanced at Xiao Nanya, "Your Highness, since you have graced us with your presence today, why not stay for lunch? I will instruct the kitchen to prepare a meal. To refuse would be impolite." "Thank you, Madam." Listening to Shuiyang's offer, Xiao Nanya nodded, his tone imbued with a new sense of respect. After a short while, Jiang Peihuan led Xiao Nanya towards the garden. When she was sure that no one was trailing behind, she turned to the man beside her, "You were just, she displeases you." The moment Jiang Peihuan opened her mouth, the man interjected immediately. Caught off guard by his statement, Jiang Peihuan's eyes widened in surprise. "Even though you didn't utter a word, one noticed you didn't enjoy her presence. So you let Han Feng teach her a lesson?" "Indeed." The man simply nodded and whispered, "Anything that brings you discomfort will vanish from your sight." Witnessing the sincerity in the man's eyes, Jiang Peihuan's gaze became a complex mix of emotions. After a moment of silence, she addressed the man, "The first of may not appreciate her, but she can't hurt me. Therefore, Your Highness, you don't need to go to such lengths. It could tarnish your reputation." Heli, listening to Jiang Peihuan's caution, Xiao Nanya suddenly burst into laughter. Seeing his smiling eyes, Jiang Peihuan was filled with confusion. Perceiving her confusion, the man cast a downwards glance at her. "Huan Do you think him a man who values reputation? Remembering Xiao Nanyes's notorious reputation for being audacious and domineering, Jiang Peihuan decided to stay silent. Observing her silence, the man spoke again, softly this time. Why don't you show me the splendors of the general's mansion? Despite my numerous visits, I've never had a chance to appreciate its beauty. Very well, Your Highness, follow me. With that, Jiang Peihuan led Xiao Nanye towards the mansion's lakeside and rockery. Just as they entered the pavilion, Han Feng arrived hastily. He walked to Xiao Nanye and Jian Peihuan and bowed respectfully. Then, he stood up. Master, the things have been sent to the eldest Miss Plum Garden. Good. The man nodded and then extended his hand to Han Feng. Hand it over to me. At that moment, Jiang Peihuan noticed Han Feng cradling a small, white puppy in his arms. The puppy was incredibly delicate and cute. After taking it from Han Feng's hands, Xiao Nanye directly handed it over to Jiang Peihuan. She accepted it instinctively, cradling it within her arms before looking questioningly towards the man beside her. Xiao Nanye reached out to gently pat the puppy's head before whispering, I brought this dog from the palace. It appeared quite spirited, so I thought you might like it. Do you? He had previously gifted her numerous pieces of jewelry, but she seemed uninterested in such items. After much thought, he decided on this little white dog. He noticed many princesses and concubines within the palace seemed to enjoy the companionship of small pets. He saw that many princesses and concubines in the palace seemed to like raising small animals. In both her past and present life, Jiang Peihuan had never had a pet. This was her first encounter with a small animal in both lives. But as soon as she cradled the little creature, it extended a paw to lick Jiang Peihuan's fingertips. The soft touch from her fingers naturally led Jiang Peihuan to caress its fur. Upon witnessing Jiang Peihuan's expressions and movements, Xiao Nanye breathed a sigh of relief. Does this puppy have a name? Not yet, you should name it. Given its fur is as white as snow, let's call it Snowflake. Because of Snowflake, Jiang Peihuan decided to return to the plum garden directly with Xiao Nanye. Yu was busy having someone transfer a box into the adjacent room. As soon as she saw Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nanye, she immediately stepped forward to greet, Your Highness, Miss. Yu arrange a little nest for Snowflake. As she spoke, Jiang Peihuan handed Snowflake to Yu, but the little creature clung tightly to Jiang Peihuan's sleeve, adamant on not leaving. Witnessing this, Yu laughed, Miss, it seems this little one only has eyes for you. A soft smile appeared in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. She reached out to gently pat the little one's head, softly saying, Never mind, go prepare its little nest first. I'll keep holding it. Xiao Nanye, looking at Snowflake nestled in Jiang Peihuan's arms, felt a tinge of regret. After a moment's thought, he reached out, grabbing Snowflake by the scruff of its neck, lifting it from Jiang Peihuan's hold. Suddenly lifted, Snowflake bared its baby teeth, but upon realizing it was Xiao Nanye who was holding it quietly lowered its head. Handing Snowflake over to Yu, Xiao Nanye whispered, From now on, you'll take care of it. Yes. Yu smiled, carrying Snowflake away. Facing Jiang Peihuan's puzzled expression, Xiao Nanye softly said, You'll tire yourself if you keep holding it. Eldest sister? Just as Jiang Peihuan was about to speak, she saw Jiang Xijin rushing towards them. Your Highness. Upon approaching, Jiang Xijin gave Xiao Nanye a respectful bow. Please rise, third miss. Knowing the close bond between Jiang Xijin and Jiang Peihuan, Xiao Nanye always treated her with gentleness. Eldest sister, lunch is ready. Mother asked me to invite you and His Highness to join. All right, understood. We're on our way. At that, Jiang Xijin dashed off again. Watching the little girl's retreating figure, Xiao Nanye couldn't help but smile. This young lady certainly knows how to read a situation. Jiang Peihuan remained silent. Instead, she led Xiao Nanye towards the main hall. By the time the pair arrived at the main hall, the entire Jiang family had already assembled, awaiting their arrival. Xiao Nanye's seat was arranged at the head of the table, but upon seeing Jiang Peihuan's seat, he spoke directly, My visit today is as a junior, not as a king. There's no need for strict formalities, General and Madam. I'll sit here. As he spoke, Xiao Nanya settled himself in the seat next to Jiang Peihuan. Jiang Xijin, who had been about to approach, noted this and silently moved to another seat nearby. Your Highness, I heard rumors that the Emperor plans to refurbish the palace. Is there any truth in this? Once seated at the table, Jiang Hong turned to Xiao Nanya with his question. Published at the 30th of August, 2023, 7:19 and 35 seconds AM. Chapter 97. Chapter 97. Hot potato. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 97. Hot potato. Upon hearing this, he set down his utensils, nodding in confirmation. Indeed, that is the case. When she heard the news about refurbishing the palace, Jiang Peihuan seemed surprised for a moment, and her thoughts turned to Xiao Juanhao. In her past life, Xiao Juanhao had gone to great lengths to ensure Emperor Qiming assigned him this task. This undertaking had provided an opportunity for him to build a solid relationship with Emperor Qiming, which had eventually led to the Emperor entrusting him with significant responsibilities. I wonder who the Emperor plans to assign this task to. Upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan also set down her utensils. Although Xiao Nanya was engrossed in a conversation with Jiang Hong, he was constantly attentive towards Jiang Peihuan. Seeing her put down her utensils, his eyes flickered, and he spoke softly. I haven't heard my imperial brother mention this. Great General, you suddenly bring up this matter. Is there something you are considering? Your Highness, as you surely understand, the refurbishment of the palace requires a substantial sum. But we just reclaimed the Hanggu Pass, and one suspect our national treasury isn't exactly overflowing. When the national treasury is lacking, the Emperor is short of funds. To refurbish the palace, money would have to be sourced from somewhere, which often meant exploiting the common people. While Jiang Hong didn't explicitly state this, Xiao Nanya understood the implication immediately. Jiang Peihuan became absorbed in her thoughts. In her previous life, Emperor Qiming had assigned the palace refurbishment to Xiao Juanhao. To carry out this task, Xiao Juanhao had privately poured in a considerable amount of his own money. However, as a prince with no maternal family's support, where had all that money come from? In her past life, the Jiang family had indeed contributed a lot of funds towards the palace refurbishment. This time around, she was curious to see how Xiao Juanhao planned to fund it. Great General, do you believe the Emperor is aware of the current state of our national treasury? The Emperor, as the sovereign of our nation, would naturally be aware. If that's the case, why do you think the Emperor still insists on refurbishing the palace? Hearing Xiao Nanya's query, Jiang Hong fell into contemplation, somewhat at a loss. What do you think, Miss Peihuan? Xiao Nanya's question abruptly shifted everyone's attention to Jiang Peihuan. With all eyes on her, Jiang Peihuan spoke softly. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the Emperor intentionally initiated this. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Xiao Nanya's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Huana, why do you believe the Emperor did this intentionally? Jiang Hong asked the question. Hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan elaborated, over the past years, although our Qi kingdom has experienced occasional warfare, it is home to a large population and vast lands. In theory, the taxes collected should be sufficient to fill the national treasury, but it remains underfilled. I think the Emperor is keen on understanding where the funds have been used. On the surface, the palace refurbishment might seem like a whim of the Emperor, but it could also be perceived as his strategy to probe. The palace refurbishment requires funding, and with an empty treasury, the ministers must find a solution to address this urgent need. Huan if you were a man, you'd be extraordinary. At Jiang Peihuan's words, a hush fell over the entire main hall. Caught in the quiet, Jiang Ren's eyes held an element of surprise. He had always been aware of his niece's intelligence, but he hadn't anticipated her to be this astute. Xiao Nanya, seated next to her, mirrored the surprise in his gaze. A beat later, he turned to Jiang Hong and said, Great General, one suppose you now understand why the Emperor wishes to renovate the palace. Jiang Hong didn't respond verbally, instead, he nodded in acknowledgement. After the lunch, Xiao Nanya made preparations to leave the Jiang mansion. Jiang Peihuan escorted him to the main entrance. Observing the woman standing next to him, Xiao Nanya whispered, Huan I had no idea you were this clever. Your Highness, you flatter me. I was just casually speaking. By the way, there's something I need to inform you. Locking eyes with Jiang Peihuan, the man softly spoke, the appointment for the palace refurbishment, the emperor has already made his decision. Would you like to know who it is? It's the Prince Qing. At this revelation, Xiao Nanya couldn't conceal his astonishment. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, he blurted out, How did you know? Because this had already happened in her previous life. Facing the man's puzzled look, Jiang Peihuan coolly responded, It was a guess. Beyond his initial surprise, Xiao Nanya quickly regained his composure. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, he softly asked, If I intervened, this task might not necessarily land in Xiao Junhao's hand. Huan would you want me to meddle? I hope that this task will be firmly in the hands of the Prince Qing. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Xiao Nanya paused for a moment, then a smile formed in his eyes, as Huan wishes. Seeing the man's smile, Jiang Peihuan softly said, I'll escort you up to here, Your Highness. Take care. After saying this, Jiang Peihuan turned around and left. Xiao Nanya stood at the entrance of the Jiang mansion. He only looked away when Jian Peihuan's figure disappeared around the corner. Heading back towards the mansion, Jiang Peihuan didn't return to her own plum garden. Instead, she ventured into Liu Xiu's elegant garden. Huan what brings you here? Third auntie, I'm here to discuss a matter with you. Liu Xiu remained silent, waiting for Jiang Peihuan to continue. Third auntie, I recall you manage a shop that deals in stone bricks, timber, and paint, correct? Indeed. Third auntie, starting today, I suggest you increase all prices in your shop by IO%. Having grown up around business, Liu Xiu quickly understood Jiang Peihuan's intention upon hearing her proposal. Nodding, Liu Xiu replied with a smile, raising prices by 10% isn't considered price gouging. The authorities likely won't interfere. After leaving the elegant garden, a smile lit up Jiang Peihuan's face. Stone bricks, timber, and paint were essential materials for palace refurbishment. By increasing the prices of these materials, Jiang Peihuan was confident that Xiao Juanhao, the officer in charge, would soon be wringing his hands in frustration. What Jiang Peihuan didn't know was that Xiao Juanhao was already feeling the pressure. Lord Du, is this the budget you're providing for the palace refurbishment? Refurbishing the palace would cost at least several million taels of silver, but Lord Du, the Minister of Revenue, had only provided a mere 100,000, which was far from enough. Now approaching 60, Lord Du's hair was graying at the temples. Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, he quickly bowed. Your Highness, I'm afraid you're not aware. In recent years, military expenses have skyrocketed, so, this is all we have left. Perhaps, Your Highness, you could propose to the Emperor to postpone the palace refurbishment until the treasury is replenished. That's enough. You may leave. I'll handle the issue of funds myself. Before Lord Du could finish, Xiao Juanhao coldly interrupted him. After Lord Du's departure, Pei Wu approached Xiao Juanhao. Your Highness, this issue seems quite thorny. I underestimated the complexity. He had thought that overseeing the palace refurbishment would provide an opportunity to strengthen his relationship with his father, the Emperor. But now, it appeared this assignment was more of a hot potato than a golden opportunity. Chapter 98, Asking the court officials to raise money. Your Highness, how do you plan to deal with this situation? Perhaps, we should report it to the Emperor. Once he understands the situation, he won't blame you. Do you really think the Emperor is unaware of the situation here? Are you suggesting the Emperor did this intentionally? Xiao Juanhao didn't respond, his silence serving as a silent agreement. The look in his eyes startled Pei Wu. How much silver do we have left in the palace treasury? After a pause, Xiao Juanhao asked Pei Wu, who had been managing the palace affairs for many years. On hearing his question, Pei Wu replied quietly, Your Highness, at most, we can move around a few tens of thousands of taels. Why so little? Upon hearing Pei Wu's response, Xiao Juanhao frowned instinctively. But after his initial surprise, he remained silent. Despite being a prince, His allowance wasn't abundant. Furthermore, he lacked the support of his mother's family, his in-laws, and the additional expenditures on various obligations had him stretched thin financially. Are you planning to use our remaining reserves, Your Highness? I had that intention initially, but now it seems that these tens of thousands of taels won't make much of a difference. Your Highness, I have an idea. However, implementing it might cause you to upset many court officials. Go on. Upon hearing Xiao Junhao's encouragement, Pei Wu stepped forward, speaking in a low voice. The palace refurbishment is a significant matter. You could ask the officials to contribute funds. One believe the emperor, upon knowing this, won't object. Asking officials to fundraise is bound to upset some people. Xiao Junhao's eyes flickered at Pei Wu's words, but he didn't outrightly reject the idea. Reading the expression in Xiao Junhao's eyes, Pei Wu pressed on. Your Highness, right now, what's most crucial is strengthening your bond with the emperor. The court officials are merely servants. Even if they get offended, it doesn't matter. Should you ascend to the throne one day, these issues would become trivial. Pei Wu's voice was soft, but his words landed clearly in Xiao Junhao's ears. Hearing this, Xiao Junhao sank into deep thought. After a while, he addressed Pei Wu, accompany me on a visit to the Lin family. Understood. Lin Mansion. Inside Lin Ruhai's personal study. Your Highness, congratulations are in order. The Emperor entrusts you with the refurbishment of the palace. It's a clear sign of his trust in you, said Lin Ruhai with a beaming smile as Xiao Junhao walked into the room. As soon as Xiao Junhao entered the study, Lin Ruhai smiled and congratulated him. However, Lin Mengyao's keen eyes spotted the troubled look in Xiao Junhao's eyes. Concerned, she quietly asked, Your Highness, are you dealing with some trouble? Gently, Xiao Junhao glanced at Lin Mengyao before directing his gaze at Lin Ruhai. Lord Lin, I come to you today because one need your assistance. Your Highness, don't hesitate to ask, whatever it is. Xiao Junhao simply repeated Du's previous words. Xiao Junhao continued, the refurbishment of the palace is my father's desire. Naturally, I will see it fulfilled. However, one lacks sufficient funds. Thus, I hope that you, Lord Lin, can negotiate with other court officials and lend me a hand. Your Highness, are you suggesting that we fundraise among the civil and military officials? Lin Ruhai inquired, a hint of discomfort visible in his eyes upon hearing Xiao Junhao's proposition. Xiao Junhao simply nodded. Seeing Lin Ruhai's perturbed expression, he reassured, Lord Lin, if this venture succeeds, I'll certainly remember your significant contribution. Despite Xiao Junhao's assurance, Lin Ruhai's face remained clouded. Years of experience in the court had made him aware of the difficulty of the task at hand. Suddenly, Lin Mengyao turned to her father. Father, please assist His Highness. Upon hearing his daughter's plea, Lin Ruhai gave Xiao Junhao a firm look. Your Highness, one promised to do my utmost. I'm grateful, Lord Lin. One look forward to hearing from you. Upon completing his statement, Xiao Junhao stood up from his chair, prompting Lin Mengyao to follow him promptly. Once they reached the courtyard, Lin Mengyao softly spoke, Please forgive my father, Your Highness. It's fine. One know that Lord Lin has his own considerations. Yarrow one won't hold it against him. That's good. Your Highness, don't worry. I will convince my father as soon as possible. Also, Your Highness, please take these. As she spoke, Lin Mengyao handed Xiao Junhao a wooden box. Seeing the mysterious box, Xiao Junhao expressed confusion. What's this? Over the past few years while studying medicine at my maternal grandparents' home, I have opened several clinics. The earnings aren't much, but they've accumulated over the years. Now, I'd like to give this to you, Your Highness. Listening to Lin Mengyao's explanation, Xiao Junhao opened the box to find a stack of banknotes. His gaze lingered on them, his eyes reflecting a complex emotion. Still, when he looked up at Lin Mengyao, his eyes softened into a warm smile. Yarrow you are the only one truly loyal to me in this world. I won't let you down. Yarrow believe in you, Your Highness. Upon learning of Xiao Junhao's new responsibility, Jiang Peihuan had been keeping tabs on him, surprised by the swift pace of his actions. General Mansion. Father, Has something stirred up in court? You don't seem to be in high spirits, Jiang Peihuan inquired, observing Jiang Hong's grim expression. Having concluded his leave, Jiang Hong had returned to his usual court duties. Ever since Jiang Hong and his wife came back, Jiang Peihuan had established a routine of dining at Yanglin every night. But this evening, as soon as she settled down, she noticed Jiang Hong's pronounced frown. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, Jiang Hong chose to remain silent. It was Shui Yang who decided to elaborate first. It's all about the refurbishment of the palace. The Prince Qing must have slipped some beguiling concoction to the court officials, prompting them to willingly contribute silver. Lin Ruhai took the lead, persuading nearly all the military commanders. After today's court session, he even sought out your father, she added. Reflecting on Lin Mengyao, Jiang Peihuan wasn't surprised by Lin Ruhai's efforts on behalf of Xiao Juanhao. However, Lin Ruhai's approach towards her father did stir up a degree of surprise within her. It was no secret that the Lin family and the Jiang family were not on congenial terms. After thinking for a while, Jiang Peihuan addressed Jiang Hong, "Father, has the emperor expressed any sentiments regarding this matter? The emperor must know. Otherwise, Prince Qing would not dare to act so boldly. The emperor did not say anything about the matter of the courtiers paying. If that's the case, father, you should feign ignorance. Huan are you suggesting we abstain from contributing?" Indeed. Matching her gaze with Jiang Hong's stern eyes, Jiang Peihuan softly said, "If the emperor personally steps in, father, we would have no option but to shell out some silver. But now, as the emperor has remained silent, it's best for you, father, to continue playing ignorant. If Lord Lin approaches you again, either claim you're short of money or suggest borrowing some from him." Chapter 99, Escorting Jiang Xijin to the military camp. If your father were to actually borrow money from Lin Ruhai, it would probably infuriate him to death. Upon hearing this, Shui Yang burst into laughter. Jiang Hong didn't chuckle, but a smile flickered in his eyes. "Well, do as Huan suggests," he declared after a pause. "Mother, why hasn't Xijin shown up today?" Jiang Peihuan, aware of Jiang Changbai's departure for the military camp, glanced at Shui Yang as Jiang Xijin was noticeably absent. "Eldest sister?" Suddenly, Jiang Xijin's voice echoed from the hall's entrance. Instinctively turning around, Jiang Peihuan saw a distinct change in Jiang Xijin's appearance. Her long hair was bound high, she wore plain cloth attire, and her wrists were tightly fastened. Seeing her in such a state, Jiang Peihuan remembered that she was headed to the military camp. "Are you leaving for the camp today? If she goes during the day, it might stir trouble. So, after some thought, your father and I decided she should go at night," Shui Yang explained. She then turned to Jiang Xijin. "Have you packed everything?" "Yes, everything's ready," Jiang Xijin confirmed. "Then have your meal. After dinner, Deputy General Liu will escort you to the camp. This journey to the camp was your decision. If you turn back midway, I won't let it slide. Father, rest assured. One won't do anything to tarnish your honor," Jiang Xijin replied, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. Jiang Peihuan, looking at the young girl beside her, turned to Jiang Hong. "Father, I'll escort Xijin to the camp later." "Wouldn't you?" "Very well, go ahead." Jiang Hong started to protest, but upon receiving a pinch from Shui Yang, he quietly acquiesced. The news of Jiang Xijin's departure to the camp had not been made known to the rest of the Jiang family, hence only the family from the main house accompanied her. "Remember, once at the camp, heed your brother's words and don't cause a scene," Shui Yang couldn't help but admonish her youngest daughter. Jiang Xijin climbed onto her horse and looked down at Shui Yang and Jiang Hong. "Father, mother, you needn't worry. One promise not to let you down." Then, turning towards Jiang Peihuan, she said, "Sister, let's go." "All right." After bowing to her parents, Jiang Peihuan mounted her horse. Deputy General Liu and the others trailed behind them. The military camp was 10 kilometers away from the outskirts of the city. They did not make a sound along the way and rode their horses in the direction of the military camp. As they neared the entrance, Jiang Peihuan heard the distant thump of horse hooves. Initially, she believed that Jiang Changbai had sent someone to escort Jiang Xijin, but as they closed the distance, the sounds of conflict reached her ears. Although it sounded like a fight, it was actually a one-sided suppression. Han Feng alone had kicked more than 10 people off the horses. Master, its eldest miss and third miss. When he heard the sound of horse hooves, Han Feng thought that it was the other party's reinforcements. It was not until he saw Jiang Peihuan at the front that Han Feng looked at Xiao Nanye behind him with surprise. Catching sight of Jiang Peihuan's face, the man spurred his horse, Zui Yun, and quickly made his way to her. Pulling up alongside her, Xiao Nanye quietly asked, "What brings you here?" Jiang Peihuan's gaze fell upon the men Han Feng had unseated. She had assumed that Xiao Nanye had once again found himself the target of an assassination attempt, yet these men were clearly not skilled assassins. Seeing Jiang Peihuan's eyes, the man said softly, "These people are just bandits around here." Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan was a little surprised. At that moment, another person approached, Princeton, whom she hadn't seen for some time. Dismounting, Jiang Peihuan greeted him with a bow. "Princeton, it's been a while. Please rise, Miss Jiang. You're engaged to my imperial uncle, after all. In 3 months' time, I'll be calling you aunt. From here on, there's no need for formalities." Xiao Junmo, who'd watched her greet, promptly intervened. Jiang Peihuan only smiled, not offering any words in response. She then turned to Xiao Nanye and shared her purpose. "I'm escorting Si Jin to the military camp. Third miss is going to the military camp." Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, surprise flickered in Xiao Nanye's eyes. He looked at Jiang Xijin in curiosity. Jiang Xijin, picking up on Xiao Nanye's expression, laughed. "My eldest sister was already on the battlefield at my age. Me joining the military camp now could be considered late. But I've heard the military camp can be quite harsh. Are you sure you can withstand that hardship, little miss?" Xiao Junmo chimed in, hearing their conversation. His words ignited a spark of anger in Jiang Xijin's eyes. "Who do you think you're looking down on?" Xijin, don't be disrespectful," Jiang Peihuan interrupted. HMPH. Anger still simmered in Jiang Xijin's eyes, but at Jiang Peihuan's admonishment, she held her tongue, simply snorting at Xiao Junmo in contempt. The latter touched his nose and retreated into silence. "Your Highness, Princeton," Jiang Peihuan began, "Xijin's manners may be a bit rude, but it's simply her nature. I hope you'll forgive any lapses in decorum. Miss Jiang, no need for such formality." One misspoke, Princeton replied humbly. "Aren't you all headed to the military camp? It's getting late, allow me to escort you there." Upon hearing Xiao Nanye's words, Jiang Peihuan simply nodded. However, as she was about to mount her horse again, she noticed the people on the ground starting to kowtow. "Please, King Cheng, have mercy. We didn't know it was you. If we did, not even 100 times our courage would have been enough for us to dare rob you. Imperial uncle, what should we do with these people? The crime of robbing innocent people is punishable by death. Han Feng, handle them." Upon hearing Xiao Nanye's instructions, Han Feng immediately drew his sword. Seeing this, the men on the ground started to panic and kowtow more frantically. "Spare us, King Cheng, hold on." Han Feng was about to carry out the execution, but at Jiang Peihuan's command, he stopped. Jiang Peihuan turned to Xiao Nanye and said softly, "Just killing them seems too lenient. Let them serve in the military camp instead. The kitchen needs helpers and so does the stable. This could give them a chance to redeem themselves. We're willing to serve in the military camp. Well, do anything." Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's proposition, the men hastily agreed. Xiao Nanye didn't say anything in response. Instead, he nodded. "All right, well, do as you say." Half an hour later, they all arrived at the entrance of the military camp. Jiang Changbai was already waiting for them at the camp's gate. Seeing the large group of people, he was taken aback. "Your Highness King Cheng, Your Highness Princeton, what brings you here?" "Big brother." Jiang Peihuan dismounted her horse and quickly narrated the incidents they encountered on the road. After listening to his sister, Jiang Changbai nodded and directed his men to escort the bandits into the camp. Next, He turned his attention to Jiang Xijin. Are you sure you want to join the camp? This is your last chance. If you're having second thoughts now, you can still accompany Huan Er. Chapter 100, Midnight Vandalism. Elder brother, don't say anything more. I've made up my mind. I'm not going back. Jiang Xijin cut off Jiang Changbai mid-sentence, leaving him silent. He turned his gaze to Jiang Peihuan. Huan Er, you know it's forbidden to enter the camp without permission. You should go back with Deputy General Liu. I understand, elder brother, Jiang Peihuan replied. After this, she looked at Jiang Xijin, reached out, and gently pat her head. A smile on her face, she spoke, your eldest sister has faith in you. I'll be waiting for your good news. Jiang Xijin's eyes sparkled with joy at these words. She embraced Jiang Peihuan gently and reassured, don't worry, eldest sister. Then, Jiang Peihuan turned to Xiao Nanya and Xiao Junmo. Your highnesses, let's leave now. Xiao Nanya nodded, climbing onto his horse, Zui Yun. Everyone departed, leaving the once lively entrance of the camp deserted, except for Jiang Changbai and Jiang Xijin. It was only after Jiang Peihuan's figure disappeared in the distance that Jiang Changbai turned to Jiang Xijin, let's go in. Since horses weren't allowed inside the camp, Jiang Xijin led her horse and followed Jiang Changbai. Upon entering, someone took her horse to the stables. As soon as she entered, someone took her horse to the stable. Jiang Changbai guided Jiang Xijin to the entrance of a large tent, indicating the tent beside him. From now on, this is where you'll stay. I understand. Hearing Jiang Changbai, Jiang Xijin started to walk in, only to be halted by him. Xijin, remember this. From the moment you step into this military camp, you're no longer the third miss of the Jiang family, but an ordinary soldier. Silently acknowledging his words, Jiang Xijin pushed open the tent flap. Most of the people inside the tent were already asleep, but a few woke at the sound. Are you new here? Asked a woman with delicate features and indifferent eyes, sleeping near the entrance. The person sleeping by the door took the initiative to speak. The woman had delicate features, but the expression in her eyes was very indifferent. Jiang Xijin nodded, replying in a soft voice, yes, I'm new. Sleep across from me. Keep your voice down and don't disturb others, the woman instructed before laying down again. After saying this, the woman lay down. Under the dim moonlight, Jiang Xijin scanned the tent. It was spacious with 2 large bunks, each accommodating about 10 people. The woman had pointed to a spot near the entrance, where anyone opening the curtain would cause wind to brush her face. Silent for a moment, Jiang Xijin climbed onto the bunk. Lying there, she felt a strange sensation, but she gritted her teeth, thinking about how Jiang Peihuan had endured the same. Meanwhile, Jiang Peihuan had already reached the city. Miss, why has the third miss suddenly gone to the military camp? Was it the great general's orders? It was late at night, yet many places in the city were still brightly lit. Watching the lively crowd, Xiao Junmo turned towards Jiang Peihuan to voice his query. Upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan shook her head. My parents didn't wish for Xijin to go to the military camp. It was her own decision. She went on her own. Seeing Jiang Peihuan confirm this with a nod, a hint of surprise flitted through Xiao Junmo's eyes. Jiang Peihuan, without further comment, shifted her gaze towards the man beside her. Your Highness, do you have any business to attend to tonight? The palace refurbishment require a considerable amount of wood. My imperial brother asked me to survey the outskirts of the city to find suitable timber. You're practically robbing us. We're going to report this to the officials. Just as Jiang Peihuan was about to speak, she heard a commotion from afar. At first, she didn't pay it much heed, but the shop involved was under the name of Liu Xiu. After some thought, she looked at the man beside her, saying, that's my third aunt's shop. One should check it out. With that, Jiang Peihuan nudged her horse forward. Watching her receding figure, Xiao Nanya promptly patted Zui Yun's head. Seeing this, Xiao Junmo quickly followed suit. They reached a paint shop. A mess of spilled paint covered the floor, while the shop assistant and the manager stood firm at the entrance, barring anyone from leaving. The individuals inside the shop had a mocking look in their eyes. You've got nerve. This paint is for the palace renovation. It's an honor to have your paint requisitioned. If you don't step aside, don't blame us for being uncivil. And what does uncivil mean to you? Jiang Peihuan reined in her horse, Lai Feng, dismounted, and walked into the shop. Eldest miss. The shopkeeper, who often went to the elegant garden to deliver ledgers, recognized Jiang Peihuan. Upon seeing her, a trace of surprise crossed his face. Jiang Peihuan acknowledged the shopkeeper with a nod before turning her attention to the group of men. The men recognized Jiang Peihuan too, yet showed no signs of panic. Instead, they coldly addressed Jiang Peihuan, Miss Jiang, we are simply carrying out orders. It'd be best if you didn't meddle, lest you invite trouble. Whose orders are you following? Why, Your Highness King Cheng? Upon seeing Xiao Nanye emerging from behind Jiang Peihuan, the men immediately knelt in respect. Xiao Nanye didn't look at the men. Instead, his gaze fell on the spilled paint on the ground. The strong smell made him look at Jiang Peihuan, quietly saying, you shouldn't stand here too long. This smell isn't good for your health. As he spoke, he reached out and guided Jiang Peihuan towards the door. Seeing the people inside still frozen on their knees, the man's voice turned icy. Well, do I need to personally invite you out? We wouldn't dare, they stammered, clambering out and collapsing to their knees at the entrance. Imperial uncle, this servant seems to be from the Lin mansion. Xiao Junmo pointed out as he walked over, noticing the leader among the men. Stepping forward, Xiao Junmo whispered, yes, Lin Ruhai. Since Lin Mengyaro had saved Xiao Junmo at the eldest princess banquet, he had paid a visit to Lin Manor to express his gratitude. I've seen him at Lin Ruhai's side. So, did General Lin send you today to vandalize my third aunt's shop? Upon hearing the exchange between Xiao Junmo and Xiao Nanye, Jiang Peihuan's eyes flashed. She then cast a cold look at the men kneeling on the ground. Miss, you're accusing us wrongly, one of them started defensively. We knew that the paint in the third lady's shop was of top quality. We came especially to buy it, but the shopkeeper threw us out. We just lost our temper. That's rubbish, the shopkeeper interrupted, his eyes blazing with anger. He turned to Jiang Peihuan, hastily speaking, Miss, don't listen to his nonsense. They are clearly here to cause trouble. Chapter 101. Going to the Lin family, they offered a price that didn't even cover the cost of the paint. Naturally, one couldn't agree to such a proposal. After hearing my refusal, they started to rob and beat me. The shopkeeper's eyes were filled with rage as he uttered the last sentence. Upon hearing the shopkeeper's words, Jiang Peihuan's eyes revealed a hint of chill. She glanced at the group and finally focused her gaze on the man in charge. Do you have anything to refute the shopkeeper's words? Miss, we did this for the shopkeeper's sake. After all, the refurbishment of the palace is the emperor's task. All the officials have started contributing. I think the merchants of the capital should also. Are you saying that what the shopkeeper said is true? Without waiting for the man to finish, Jiang Peihuan coldly interrupted him. The man wanted to deny it but felt a chill at his throat. He looked up and saw the long sword in Xiao Nanye's hand pointing directly at him. So, according to you, it is the emperor's fault? No. Hearing Xiao Nanye's words, the man quickly waved his hand. However, Xiao Nanye sneered, Lin Ruhai, you have some nerve. Today, I would like to see who you're relying on. Han Feng, let's go, take them to the Lin's mansion. After that, Xiao Nanye turned to Jiang Peihuan next to him. His voice softened instantly. Huan you should return to the general's mansion. I'll handle this matter. I'll go to the Lin mansion with you. After all, this matter involves my aunt's shop. All right, let's go together. To Jiang Peihuan's decision, Xiao Nanye didn't object. Han Feng, who was watching, rolled his eyes. He knew very well that his master just wanted to spend more time with the young lady. After Jiang Peihuan got onto Lai Feng's back, she turned to Deputy General Liu and said, return to the mansion and inform third uncle about this matter. Yes, but what about you, miss? Don't worry. As long as I'm here, no one will harm her. Seeing the anxious look in Deputy General Liu's eyes, Xiao Nanye immediately spoke up. Hearing these words, Deputy General Liu gave a respectful bow to Xiao Nanye and rode away. Shortly after, Xiao Nanye and Jiang Peihuan left for Lin's mansion with the shopkeeper and the group. Lin Mansion. Due to the matter of raising funds for the refurbishment of the palace, Lin Ruhai had been in constant stress. He was sitting in his study contemplating how to assist Xiao Juanhao. Lin Mengyaro was sitting beside him. Suddenly, a hurried knock on the door interrupted him. "Come in." The butler entered the study. "Master, King Cheng is here." "King Cheng?" Hearing the butler's words, Lin Ruhai was taken aback, quickly rising from his seat. Lin Mengyaro, who was seated beside, was also surprised. She asked, "Why would King Cheng suddenly visit? Who else is with him?" "Along with King Cheng, eldest Miss Jiang from the Jiang family is also here. And Lin San. It seems like something has happened." Upon hearing the butler's last sentence, Lin Ruhai frowned. "Father, we should go to the main hall. We can't keep King Cheng waiting." Seeing her father in deep thought, Lin Mengyaro reminded him. Hearing her words, Lin Ruhai nodded in agreement. Moments later, father and daughter appeared in the main hall. As soon as he entered, Lin Ruhai saw Lin San kneeling on the floor. Upon seeing Lin Ruhai, Lin San appeared as though he'd seen his savior, but seeing the stern expression on Lin Ruhai's face, he felt a sense of foreboding. "King Cheng, one wonder why you've graced us with your presence so late at night." Lin Ruhai greeted Xiao Nanye with a smile, trying to hide his confusion. "Is this man yours?" Xiao Nanye pointed at Lin San, who was kneeling on the floor. After giving Lin San a cold glance, Lin Ruhai admitted, "Yes, he works in my house." "I wonder what he has done to upset your highness." "You seem unaware of what good deeds has done, Lord Lin." Seeing Lin Ruhai pretending to be at a loss, Xiao Nanye spoke with a faint smile. His eyes were full of mockery. Upon meeting his gaze, the smile in Lin Ruhai's eyes stiffened slightly, but he still spoke softly. "I genuinely do not know. I would appreciate it if you could enlighten me, Your Highness." Xiao Nanye scoffed, and then spoke in a sarcastic tone. "Lin Ruhai, I am surprised that you dare to misuse the Emperor's orders for your own personal gain. Your Highness, where does this accusation come from? I'm truly being wrongly accused. If Lord Lin feels wronged, how do you explain the incident of someone from your side trying to steal paint from my third aunt's shop tonight?" As soon as Lin Ruhai's words fell, Jiang Peihuan spoke directly. Sitting at the end of the table, Lin Mengyaro, hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, quickly spoke up. "Miss Jiang, my father is always straightforward and would never do such disgraceful things. Please be careful with your words. Miss Lin, there's no need to be so agitated. I'm just saying the truth." Having said that, Jiang Peihuan looked directly at the shopkeeper. Receiving Jiang Peihuan's gaze, the shopkeeper stepped forward and repeated what he had said earlier. After the shopkeeper finished speaking, Jiang Peihuan looked at Lin Mengyaro. "Miss Lin, you might want to ask your people, has the shopkeeper said anything untrue?" Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Lin Mengyao's face turned grim. She subconsciously looked at her father. Seeing the increasingly troubled look on Lin Ruhai's face, Lin Mengyaro frowned. Just as he was about to speak, a mocking voice came from the entrance. "Lord Lin, you cannot curry favor with Prince Qing using my wife's property. Or are you suggesting that you think I, Jiang Ren, am easy to bully?" As the voice trailed off, Jiang Ren's tall figure appeared next to Jiang Peihuan. Seeing Jiang Ren, Jiang Peihuan moved forward to salute him. "Third uncle." Xiao Nanye acknowledged him with a nod. Jiang Ren glanced at the two of them, then turned his gaze to Lin Ruhai. "Lord Lin, according to your people, this act was carried out under orders. But it seems my Jiang mansion has not received any decree from the Emperor. I wonder whose order was it that you were following?" When Lin Ruhai saw Jiang Ren appear, his already stern face turned even more grim. But to Jiang Ren's question, he had no way of explaining. In the silence, Lin Mengyaro suddenly stepped forward, bowed to Jiang Ren, and then spoke softly. "Lord Jiang, this incident is a misunderstanding." Chapter 102, Xiao Juanhao has been demoted. My father was merely trying to lend a hand, but the servants misunderstood his intentions, Lin Mengyaro said with a gloomy look in her eyes. directing her gaze towards Lin San. You should apologize to Lord Jiang now. Upon hearing Lin Mengyao's words, Lin San quickly bowed his head to Jiang Ren. Watching Lin San bow until his forehead bled, Jiang Ren frowned. Enough. Lord Jiang, regarding the loss of the third lady's shop, the Lin family will fully compensate according to the value. Today's incident was truly a misunderstanding. I hope you won't hold it against us. After speaking to Jiang Ren, Lin Mengyao turned to Xiao Nanye, King Cheng. This matter was indeed a misunderstanding. I hope you can overlook it for the sake of Prince Sen. Regardless, Lin Mengyao's previous rescue of Xiao Junmo was a fact. Although Xiao Junmo didn't come over to avoid arousing suspicion, everyone knew that Xiao Nanye and Xiao Junmo had a good relationship. Silently, Jiang Peihuan spoke softly. Third uncle, since Miss Lin said she is willing to compensate for the loss of third aunt's shop, it seems that this really is a misunderstanding. Besides, the refurbishment of the palace is Prince Qing's responsibility, and it doesn't have much to do with Lord Lin. Upon hearing the first part of Jiang Peihuan's sentence, a faint smile appeared in Lin Mengyao's eyes. But upon hearing the latter, her face turned sour. After Jiang Peihuan spoke, Jiang Ren responded indifferently. Since Huana says so, perhaps this really is a misunderstanding. But, I don't want such a misunderstanding to happen a second time. Otherwise, one would have to speak to the Emperor with Lord Lin. By the end of his sentence, Jiang Ren's eyes were filled with threat. Huana, let's go home. After speaking, Jiang Ren turned to Jiang Peihuan. Seeing this, Xiao Nanye also rose from his chair and left with Jiang Peihuan. Looking at their retreating figures, the faces of the father and daughter of the Lin family were full of displeasure. Watching the disappearing figures of Jiang Peihuan and others, Lin Mengyao turned to Lin Ruhai. Father, what exactly is going on? To refurbish the palace, we need not only money but also materials like wood and paint. The paint from the Liu family's shop is the best in the capital. One also wanted to help Prince Qing. Jiang Peihuan understood the plans of the Lin family very clearly. After all, in her past life, Lin Mengyao was the moonlight in Xiao Junhao's heart. Huan why did you stop me from speaking? After leaving the Lin's house, Jiang Ren turned to Jiang Peihuan and asked. Both Jiang Ren and Xiao Nanye looked puzzled. Facing their doubtful expressions, Jiang Peihuan said softly, the matter of refurbish the palace, the emperor clearly handed it to Prince Qing. Third uncle, King Cheng, guess why the Lin family is so concerned on this matter? Could it be that Lin Ruhai has already sided with Prince Qing? After a moment of silence, Jiang Ren turned to Jiang Peihuan. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan nodded, you could say that. But that's not the whole reason. If I'm not mistaken, there must be some deal between Xiao Juanhao and Lin Ruhai, and the best deal is a marriage alliance. As soon as Jiang Peihuan finished speaking, Xiao Nanye, who was on Zui Yun's back, spoke. Hearing the man's words, surprise appeared in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. She knew these things because she had experienced them in her previous life, but she didn't expect Xiao Nanye to be so insightful. That eldest Miss Lin is quite clever. No wonder she has won the heart of Prince Qing. But compared to you, Huan she is still lacking. As he spoke, Jiang Ren nodded seriously. Seeing her uncle's expression, Jiang Peihuan was a bit amused. Third uncle, you are praising your own family. I feel the same. At this point, Xiao Nanye also chimed in. Upon hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan fell silent. Soon after, Jiang Ren laughed. Your Highness, by now you're also considered as part of the family. Haha, third uncle. Hearing Jiang Ren's laughter, Jiang Peihuan gave her uncle a disgruntled look. Okay. I'll stop. Your third aunt is waiting for me. King Chen, please make sure Huana gets home safely. Don't worry, Lord Jiang. I will ensure Huana reaches the general's mansion safely. What are you all waiting for? Hurry up and follow me. Seeing that Deputy General Liu and others were still silently following, Jiang Ren looked at them irritably and spoke. Soon, Jiang Ren left with Deputy General Liu and others. Only Xiao Nanye and Jiang Peihuan were left on the street. Han Feng naturally followed Jiang Ren. Huan do you hate Xiao Juanhao? Xiao Nanye suddenly asked. Upon hearing this name, Jiang Peihuan was stunned. When she first returned, she constantly thought about killing Xiao Juanhao, but over time, her thoughts gradually changed, because her loved ones were alive and well. She didn't want hatred to consume all her energy, so her thoughts changed a bit, but now hearing his name, hatred and disgust immediately flooded Jiang Peihuan's eyes. Jiang Peihuan turned to look at Xiao Nanye and said straightforwardly, "Not only do one dislike him, one detest him, and one hate him." Jiang Peihuan's tone was indifferent, but when she mentioned Xiao Juanhao, her eyes were filled with cold hostility. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, a complicated expression flashed through Xiao Nanye's eyes. After a moment, he suddenly laughed, "That's good. I also dislike him very much." Just as Jiang Peihuan was about to ask Xiao Nanye why he asked this question, the Lifeng stopped. They had arrived at the general's mansion. "It's getting late. You should go back and rest early." At the gate of the general's mansion, Xiao Nanye pulled the reins and spoke to Jiang Peihuan, who was by his side. Nodding, Jiang Peihuan dismounted. After thinking for a while, she looked at the man on the horse and said, "Your Highness should also go back and rest early." Seeing the man nod, Jiang Peihuan turned around and entered the general's mansion. As the gates closed, Xiao Nanye turned to leave. But instead of returning to his own mansion, Xiao Nanye went to the palace. Jiang Peihuan knew nothing of this. The next morning, just as Jiang Peihuan finished her exercises, she saw Jiang Ren rushing towards her plum garden. Prince Qing has been demoted." Jiang Peihuan was about to speak when she heard Jiang Ren's voice. At his words, Jiang Peihuan looked surprised. In her past life, Xiao Juanhao never experienced being demoted. "Third uncle, what happened?" "I'm not sure about the specifics. Anyway, during the court meeting this morning, the emperor suddenly decreed to demote Prince Qing to a lower-ranked prince. With this, it would be very difficult for Prince Qing to regain his status. Usually, once a prince is appointed, as long as he does not commit any grave crimes, he would not be demoted." Chapter 103. Liu Xin arrives at the mansion. Hearing Jiang Ren's words, Jiang Peihuan didn't respond verbally, but her eyes showed she was deep in thought. It seemed that this life and her previous life were quite different. However, she wouldn't feel any sympathy for Xiao Juanhao. "By the way, Huan I came to ask if you have any spare time. Xin is visiting your third aunt today. I have to go to the military camp soon, and Songbai is still at the academy. If you have time, you could go to Elegant Garden and have a meal with your third aunt." Once Jiang Ren finished speaking, Jiang Peihuan understood his intentions. After all, a visitor should not be neglected, especially if it's only Liu Xiu. "Go ahead, your third aunt is waiting for you." After saying these words, Jiang Ren left Plum Garden directly. Once Jiang Ren had left, Jiang Peihuan changed her clothes and went to Elegant Garden with Yu Er. Eldest Miss, Third Madam and Miss Liu are in the small garden. "Madam asked me to wait here for you." As Jiang Peihuan arrived at the entrance of Elegant Garden, she saw Jing Er waiting there. Seeing Jiang Peihuan, Jing Er quickly greeted her with a bow. "Get up." Raising her hand towards her, Jiang Peihuan finally spoke with a smile, "Please lead me to my third aunt." Then, Jiang Peihuan followed Jing Er towards the small garden. Before they got close, she heard Liu Xiu's laughter. Liu Xiu was usually gentle and it was good to see her laugh so freely. Stepping forward, Jiang Peihuan quietly said, "It seems my third aunt is very happy today. Is it because of Sister Xin Huan you've arrived. Come, sit." Hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, both Liu Xiu and Liu Xin turned their heads towards her. Liu Xin even stepped forward to bow, "Sister Jiang." Jiang Peihuan quickly held her hand and said, "Didn't I tell you, we're all family, no need for such formalities." "All right, 111 remember," Liu Xin responded with a nod. Once Jiang Peihuan sat down, Liu Xin took a seat next to her. "Huan thank you for your help last night," said Liu Xiu. "Third aunt, we're all family, no need to be so polite." "It's just my overthinking," Liu Xiu replied, then turned to Jing Er, "Could you check if Nanny Liu pastries are ready? Please bring some for our young lady to taste." "Yes, I'll go right away." Nanny Liu started preparing them early in the morning when she heard you were coming. I'll have to eat a couple more then, Jiang Peihuan replied, chuckling at Liu Xiu's words. But before they could enjoy Nanny Liu pastries, Jiang Ruyun arrived. Jiang Ruyun rarely visited Elegant Garden. Seeing her sudden appearance, both Liu Xiu and Jiang Peihuan were somewhat surprised. Third aunt, eldest sister. Jiang Ruyun stepped forward and gave a rare bow to Liu Xiu, which made Liu Xiu hastily ask, Ruyun, is there something you need from me? Third aunt, the Cao family invited me to go on an outing. As my elder and younger brothers, as well as Si Jin, are not at home, it may be inappropriate for me to go alone. So, I was thinking about asking my elder sister to accompany me. Since Miss Liu is here, why don't we invite her to join us? In Qi Kingdom, the society was rather open-minded. Unmarried men and women could hang out together. Plus, Jiang Ruyun and Cao Jun already had a marriage arrangement. However, as a prestigious family, some care was still necessary, usually having siblings accompany each other. It was expected that Jiang Peihuan would accompany, but when Jiang Ruyun suggested Liu Xin also join, Liu Xiu seemed hesitant. Although she had married into the Jiang family, the Liu family was still a merchant after all. Liu Xiu was worried her niece might be looked down upon. Without thinking, Liu Xiu looked towards Jiang Peihuan. Seeing Liu Xiu's hesitation, Jiang Peihuan reassured her, Third aunt, they are of the same age. Let Xin'er join them for fun. I will bring her back later. All right, Xin'er can go with you. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Liu Xiu nodded. An hour later, Jiang Peihuan, Jiang Ruyun, and Liu Xin left the Jiang mansion. As they reached the main entrance, they saw Cao Jun on a carriage. Seeing the ladies, Cao Jun hurriedly paid his respects, eldest Miss Ruyun. Young Master Cao. After nodding to Cao Jun, Jiang Peihuan introduced Liu Xin. This is Miss Liu, my third aunt's niece. She's visiting us, so I brought her along. I hope you don't mind, young Master Cao. The Cao family was known for scholarly heritage, while the Liu family was merchants. As Jiang Peihuan spoke, she watched Cao Jun's face. If Cao Jun showed any dissatisfaction, she would find a way to cancel the outing. However, upon hearing Liu Xin's background, there was no change in Cao Jun's expression. He bowed, Miss Liu. Seeing Cao Jun bow, Liu Xin quickly returned the greeting. Seeing this scene, Jiang Peihuan's impression of Cao Jun changed slightly. Soon, everyone was on the carriage. The carriage was prepared by the Cao family. It was not luxurious, but it was very elegant. Once seated, Jiang Ruyun asked Cao Jun, Brother Cao, where are we going for the outing? I planned to take you to Little Cloud Mountain outside the city river. It's lotus seed season. We can pick some in the evening. Although Little Cloud Mountain was named a mountain, it is not actually a mountain. It is a vast grassland with a steep slope. From afar, it looks like a mountain. Sitting at the top and looking up at the sky, the scenery is very beautiful. This is why it was named Little Cloud Mountain. That's perfect. One can pick some to bring back. Inside the carriage, most of the conversation was between Cao Jun and Jiang Ruyun, with Liu Xin occasionally chiming in. Jiang Peihuan casually picked up a book from the table and started to read quietly. Sister Jiang, have some tea. Seeing that Jiang Peihuan had been silent, Liu Xin poured her a cup of tea and handed it to her. Thank you. After softly saying thanks, Jiang Peihuan put down her book. But just as she was about to reach out to take the teacup, the carriage suddenly stopped. The cup of tea spilled all over Jiang Peihuan. I'm sorry, Sister Jiang, are you okay? Seeing the tea spilling on Jiang Peihuan, Liu Xin's eyes were filled with panic. It's okay, the tea is not hot. It's all my fault. It's not your fault, I just didn't hold it steady. Seeing Liu Xin looking increasingly upset, Jiang Peihuan interrupted her gently. If there's anything to blame, it would be the sudden stop of the carriage. Cao Jun also understood this, and he breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Jiang Peihuan was not hurt. Chapter 104. Going out for a walk afterward, Cao Jun lifted the curtain with a hint of anger in his eyes. It's you. As soon as he lifted the curtain, The people inside the carriage saw Yang Xin on the horseback. And Yang Xin also saw the people inside the carriage. Although the Cao and Yang families haven't officially arranged a marriage, many people in the capital knew about their discussions. When the Cao family suddenly called it off, Yang Xin became a laughingstock for many. So when she saw the Cao family's carriage, she charged over without thinking. Now seeing the people inside the carriage, Yang Xin's anger deepened. Just as she was about to speak, Jiang Ruyun spoke first. Yang Xin, what's the meaning of this? Do you realize you almost ran into us and scolded my elder sister? Hearing Jiang Ruyun's words, Yang Xin's eyes were full of triumph, but she didn't sound apologetic. I'm really sorry. Seeing Yang Xin's expression, anger flickered in Jiang Ruyun's eyes. If it wasn't for Cao Jun's presence, she really wanted to take out her whip. Miss Yang, please move aside. At this point, Cao Jun spoke impatiently. As soon as he did, Yang Xin's anger flared up. She looked at Cao Jun with fury. Cao Jun, are you out of your mind? To cancel the marriage with my family because of Jiang Ruyun, this washed-up woman. Yang Xin, watch your words. Hearing the words washed-up woman, Cao Jun's face was very displeased. But when Yang Xin saw his unpleasant expression, she couldn't help but smile. Am I not telling the truth? Not only has Jiang Ruyun been engaged to the Prince of Huainan, but she also had a miscarriage. Before Yang Xin could finish her sentence, the horse suddenly reared up, and she tumbled off. Yang Xin climbed up from the ground, coldly glaring at the people inside the carriage. Her gaze landed on Jiang Peihuan, who was putting away her whip. While coiling up the whip, Jiang Peihuan said, if one hear these words again, one can't guarantee that my whip won't fall on Miss Yang. With the whip put away, Jiang Peihuan looked at Cao Jun and said, let's go. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Cao Jun nodded and told the driver, let's go. After saying that, he lowered the curtain in his hand. The carriage moved on, but Jiang Ruyun's face inside the carriage had obviously darkened. Jiang Peihuan didn't say anything. Although Yang Xin's words were harsh, they were true. That's why she had lashed the horse instead of Yang Xin. After a while, the carriage stopped. Outside, they heard the driver's voice, young master, we've arrived. Understood. After responding, Cao Jun lifted the curtain and got off the carriage. After all the people in the carriage got down, he let the curtain down. Since many young ladies from noble families were coming to sightsee, merchants had built many pavilions here. Cao Jun had already reserved a beautiful pavilion. After getting off the carriage, they headed straight to the pavilion. Sister Jiang, the scenery here is beautiful. Liu Xin had always wanted to come here, but the ones coming here were mostly daughters of prestige families. She worried about causing unnecessary trouble, so she never came. In her past life, Jiang Peihuan had come here a few times, but in this life, it was her first time. Hearing Liu Xin's words, she quietly said, then I'll accompany you for a walk. Today's weather was good, so there were many people out for a stroll. She didn't want Liu Xin to go alone, for fear of any accidents. Liu Xin truly wanted to enjoy the scenery. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, she nodded with a smile. Thank you, Sister Jiang. Afterward, Jiang Peihuan turned to Cao Jun and Jiang Ruyun, we're going for a walk. Do you want to join? Elder sister, I'm a bit tired and want to rest. You go ahead with Liu Xin, I'll join you later. I'll stay here and keep Ruyun company. Upon hearing their replies, Jiang Peihuan nodded and left with Liu Xin. Just after Jiang Peihuan and Liu Xin left the pavilion, Cao Jun anxiously looked at Jiang Ruyun. Ruyun, are you angry with me? I'm not angry at you. I'm angry at myself. After all, what Yang Xin said was, Ruyun, stop. Before Jiang Ruyun could finish, Cao Jun interrupted her softly. Looking into her eyes, he said seriously, one know if I say I don't care at all, you won't believe me. One admit, the matter between you and the Prince of Huainan does bother me a little. But it's not because of so-called innocence, but because one feels sorry for the hurt you've suffered. One even blame myself for not meeting you earlier, especially since fate had given me an opportunity. Ruyun, being able to finalize our engagement and, soon, marry you, 1 am already very content. So, don't be upset by others' words. It hurts me to see you like that. Hearing Cao Jun's words, Jiang Ruyun's eyes filled with tears. After a while, she nodded. All right, I'll remember your words. Seeing her smile again, Cao Jun said with a laugh, let's go find eldest Miss Jiang and Liu Xin. Okay. Jiang Ruyun nodded, and they left the pavilion together. At this moment, Jiang Peihuan and Liu Xin had reached the moat. Just as Cao Jun had predicted, the lotus seeds in the moat were ripe, and many people were picking them from small boats. Seeing this, Liu Xin's eyes were filled with excitement. Sister Jiang, should we go and pick some lotus seeds too? Seeing the enthusiasm in her eyes, Jiang Peihuan nodded. Elder sister? At this moment, they heard Jiang Ruyun's voice from behind. When Cao Jun and Jiang Ruyun walked up to them, Cao Jun softly said, I've already prepared a few small boats. Eldest Miss Jiang and Miss Liu, do you want to pick lotus seeds? We were just about to go. Upon hearing that Cao Jun had prepared the boats, Liu Xin's eyes lit up with joy. To facilitate picking lotus seeds, the boats were made very small, so a boat could just accommodate 2 people. A short while later, Jiang Peihuan and Liu Xin boarded one boat, while Jiang Ruyun and Cao Jun got onto another. The water in the moat was flowing, so once they got on, they didn't have to paddle. Occasionally, they just needed to gently stroke the water with their hands, and the boat would drift on its own. At first, the 2 boats were close together, but after a few strokes, they drifted apart. Chapter 105, Falling into the water unconsciously, Jian Peihuan found that the boat she and Liu Xin were in was gradually drifting towards the middle of the moat. At first, Liu Xin didn't notice anything wrong. But as the speed increased, she became somewhat puzzled. Sister Jiang, is our boat rowing too fast? Millimeter. Hearing Liu Xin's question, Jiang Peihuan nodded. Their boat had been rowed by the people on the other boats. At first, Jiang Peihuan hadn't paid much attention, but by the time she realized it, their boat was already in the middle of the river. This meant that even if they wanted to row back, it would take some time. Xin, can you swim? I can't. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's question, Liu Xin shook her head. Although Liu Xin did not know what the problem was, she was more sensitive. Seeing that Jiang Peihuan's looked concerned, she asked in a soft voice, Sister Jiang, is there a problem? Jiang Peihuan briefly explained what had happened earlier and continued, I don't know the purpose of them bringing our boat to the middle, but don't worry, I will protect you. Although she had never learned how to float in this lifetime, Jiang Peihuan had carefully learned it in her previous life. If both of them fell into the water, Jiang Peihuan believed she could save Liu Xin. Just as Liu Xin was about to speak, she saw a boat approaching them. Jiang Peihuan was sitting with her back to the boat, but when she noticed Liu Xin's expression, she instinctively turned around. In the distance, a boat was approaching with several people on board, and the most obvious person among them was Xiao Juanhao. Seeing him, Jiang Peihuan's eyes immediately darkened. Jiang Peihuan thought that Liu Xin was implicated in this incident because of her, but what she didn't know was that at this moment, Xiao Junhao's gaze fell on Liu Xin. Looking at Pei Wu, he said in a calm voice, is that Liu family's only legitimate daughter? Your Highness, that is Liu Xin. She is indeed the only daughter of the Liu family. Before Pei Wu could speak, Yang Xin interjected. Xiao Juanhao didn't say anything further. Instead, he stared blankly at the figure ahead. Although funds were being raised by the officials for the refurbishment of the palace, there was still a long way to go. That's why Xiao Juanhao turned his attention to the Liu family, as they were the wealthiest merchants in Qi Kingdom. That's how today's outing came about. Xiao Junhao's original plan was just to establish a connection with Liu Xin, but now he had changed his mind. Looking at Pei Wu, he spoke in a low voice, find a way to capsize that boat. One will save. Liu Xin. You make sure to save Jiang Peihuan. Yes, Your Highness. Upon hearing Xiao Junhao's words, Pei Wu immediately turned and left. Lin Mengyaro stood beside Xiao Juanhao and listened to his instructions. She had a complicated expression in her eyes. Just when she managed to dispel Xiao Junhao's thoughts about Jiang Peihuan, now there was Liu Xin. However, considering that the Liu family was just a merchant, even if Xiao Juanhao really accepted Liu Xin, it wouldn't affect her position. Lin Mengyaro felt relieved. Watching Pei Wu carry out the orders, Lin Mengyaro couldn't help but speak to Xiao Juanhao. Your Highness, Jiang family's third lady is also from the Liu family. Just by saving Liu Xin, it's unlikely that the Liu family will easily send Liu Xin into the royal palace. What do you suggest then? Meeting Xiao Junhao's gaze, Lin Mengyaro stood on tiptoe, lowered her voice, and whispered a few words in his ear. Upon hearing Lin Mengyao's words, Xiao Junhao's eyes revealed a hint of complexity. Yang Xin, who was standing by, tightly clenched her fists when she saw this scene. A trace of jealousy flashed through her eyes, but no one noticed. On the small boat, Liu Xin looked at the figure behind Jiang Peihuan and said with an unpleasant expression, Sister Jiang, someone is coming. Jiang Peihuan turned around and saw two boats approaching them. Frowning, Jiang Peihuan reached out and paddled the water a couple of times, intending to avoid the boats behind them. However, two more boats emerged from the left side, leaving her with no choice. Sister Jiang, they're coming. What should we do? Seeing the approaching boats, Liu Xin became somewhat flustered. Jiang Peihuan reached out and immediately pulled out the whip from her waist. Seeing several boats approaching, Jiang Peihuan raised the black whip in her hand and spoke coldly, Don't come any closer, or don't blame me for being impolite. The men on the boats saw the black whip in Jiang Peihuan's hand, and a few traces of fear appeared in their eyes. But thinking of the orders from above, they continued forward without hesitation. With a hint of coldness in her eyes, Jiang Peihuan flicked her wrist, and the whip in her hand directly struck the nearest person. That person instantly fell into the water. Xin hold on tight. All right. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Liu Xin held onto the sides of the boat with both hands. Seeing her stabilize, Jiang Peihuan stood up. Despite the boat rocking heavily, it didn't hinder Jiang Peihuan's movements. In no time, all the people from the two boats had fallen into the water. However, at that moment, another boat came crashing towards them. Sister Jiang, be careful. Seeing this scene, Liu Xin quickly spoke up. Jiang Peihuan was standing, and as the boat collided, she lost her balance and fell into the water. Sister Jiang. Seeing Jiang Peihuan falling into the water, Liu Xin instinctively reached out her hand to grab her, but in doing so, she also fell into the water. Your Highness, you can go now. On the boat, Pei Wu watched as Liu Xin fell into the water, then turned to Xiao Juanhao and said, Millimeter. Xiao Juanhao nodded and turned to walk to the deck. However, just as he was about to enter the water, he saw two familiar figures jump into the water. The ones jumping into the water were none other than Xiao Nanye and Jiang Changbua, who happened to be passing by. Upon hearing Liu Xin's voice as she fell into the water, Jiang Peihuan instinctively tried to swim towards her but found someone swiftly swimming towards her. When Jiang Peihuan saw Xiao Nanye, her eyes were filled with surprise, and Xiao Nanye also looked surprised seeing Jiang Peihuan swimming freely in the water. After all, not long ago, he had saved her from the river, and at that time, he was certain that Jiang Peihuan couldn't swim. At this time, Jiang Peihuan had already surfaced. Seeing this, Xiao Nanye quickly swam to her side. Jiang Peihuan didn't have time to think about Xiao Nanye. She instinctively searched for Liu Xin and saw that Jiang Changbai had already carried Liu Xin to the shore. Only then did she breathe a sigh of relief. Xin are you okay? Looking at Liu Xin, who coughed out some river water, Jiang Peihuan asked worriedly. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, Liu Xin shook her head. Jiang, cough cough. As soon as she spoke, she erupted into severe coughing. Don't talk for now. Let's discuss everything when we get back. Jiang Changbai, seeing Liu Xin's face flushed from coughing, interrupted her softly. Chapter 106, Return to the mansion. Eldest sister, get on the carriage quickly. At this moment, the Cao family's carriage arrived. Hearing Jiang Ruyun's voice, Jiang Peihuan hurriedly helped Liu Xin onto the carriage. They had brought spare clothes with them because they were worried about getting their clothes wet on the way. Xin change out of your wet clothes first. After sitting inside the carriage, Jiang Peihuan immediately looked at Liu Xin and spoke. Liu Xin nodded and began changing her clothes. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan also changed out of her wet clothes. When she lifted the curtain, she saw that Xiao Nanye and Jiang Changbai had also changed their clothes. After the two of them got on the carriage, Jiang Changbai quickly turned to Jiang Peihuan and said, Huan why did you and Miss Liu fall into the water? It was Prince Qing. After briefly explaining the situation, Jiang Peihuan continued, he must have planned this beforehand. The plan, however, was unclear whether it was targeted at her or for some other reason. Or perhaps it was due to the grudge he held since their encounter at the estate. Why would Prince Qing scheme against you? Have you offended him in any way? Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Jiang Changbai looked puzzled. At this moment, Xiao Nanye spoke up, I will have someone investigate this matter thoroughly. If Xiao Juanhao truly intends to harm you, I will not let him off. As he spoke the last sentence, a fierce determination flashed in Xiao Nanye's eyes. Elder brother, why are you and His Highness here? The Emperor ordered me to come and inspect the refurbishment of the palace. I found it boring, so I brought young General with me. Before Jiang Changbai could respond, Xiao Nanye preemptively replied upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words. Upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan nodded, then turned to Jiang Changbai and said, Elder brother, do you plan to return home with us? I won't be going back with you. His Highness and I still have to go check on the refurbishment of the palace. You go back on your own. When you return, have the doctor examine you and give Miss Liu some medicine for her cold. Understood, elder brother. Seeing Jiang Peihuan nod, Jiang Changbai turned to Xiao Nanye and said, Your Highness, let's go ahead. Upon hearing Jiang Changbai's words, Xiao Nanye nodded. But as he was getting off the carriage, he whispered to Jiang Peihuan, I will have Han Feng investigate this matter as soon as possible. Wait for my message. Millimeter. Seeing Jiang Peihuan nod, Xiao Nanye got off the carriage. Afterward, Jiang Peihuan and her group left on their own, heading towards the Jiang mansion. On the boat. Watching the departing group, Xiao Junhao's expression turned gloomy. Beside him, Pei Wu also wore an unpleasant expression. Seeing Xiao Junhao remain silent, he approached and spoke softly, Your Highness, what should we do now? You personally go to the Liu mansion and say that I want to take Liu Xin as a concubine, and have them pick a date to send Liu Xin to Prince Qing's mansion. Your Highness, this may not be appropriate. Although the Liu family is a merchant, they are still in-laws with the good Jiang residents. What if? Before Pei Wu could finish his sentence, Xiao Junhao directly interrupted him. At this moment, Xiao Junhao's eyes were filled with a gloomy expression. It was almost a done deal, but Xiao Nanye and Jiang Changbua had to interfere. Turning to Pei Wu, Xiao Junhao coldly spoke, I have already been demoted to a marquis. If there are any more mishaps with the palace refurbishment, then, in any case, do as I said. Pei Wu wanted to persuade further, but seeing the expression in Xiao Junhao's eyes, he thought for a moment and silently closed his mouth. Just do as His Highness said. Although the Liu family is related by marriage to the Jiang family, it doesn't change the fact that they are merchants. At this moment, Lin Mengyao's voice came from behind. Upon hearing her words, Pei Wu nodded and stepped forward to salute. Yes, I will go to the Liu family as you instructed. Your Highness, don't worry. There's no need for concern. Once Liu Xin enters the prince's mansion, the matter of money will be resolved. After Pei Wu left, Lin Mengyao looked at Xiao Juanhao with gentle eyes and said. In the past, whenever Xiao Juanhao heard Lin Mengyao's words, his eyes were full of tenderness. However, at this moment, although there was still some warmth in his eyes, there was also a hint of displeasure. Let me have someone accompany you back to the residence. After saying this, Xiao Juanhao turned around and left. As she watched his departing figure, Lin Mengyao hesitated for a moment but said nothing. At this time, Jiang Peihuan had already arrived at the Jiang mansion. Why did this happen out of nowhere? Liu Xiu had received the news and was waiting at the entrance of the elegant garden. When she saw Jiang Peihuan and Liu Xin appear, she immediately approached with a worried expression. Seeing the concern in her eyes, Liu Xin stepped forward and held Liu Xiu's hand. Auntie, don't worry, I'm fine. Liu Xiu wanted to say something, but then she noticed Jiang Ruyun standing beside them. Strictly speaking, This incident happened because the cow family invited them for a outing. Thinking of this, Liu Xin did not say anything further. Instead, she turned to Liu Xin and said, "The doctor is already waiting inside. Let him take a look at you." Liu Xin felt that she was fine, but she couldn't resist Liu Xiu's insistence. After checking Liu Xin's pulse, the doctor turned to Liu Xiu and said, "Madam, please rest assured, Miss Liu is in good health. However, since she fell into the water, I will prescribe some medicine. Drinking a few doses should help ward off the chill." "Thank you, doctor." Then, Liu Xiu turned to Jiang Peihuan and said, "Peihuan, you also fell into the water. Let the doctor check you too." "No need, auntie, you forget, Yi Xiao in my room knows medicine. If I feel unwell later, she can take a look. For precaution, let's have Xin stay over at the house tonight." I was thinking the same. Upon hearing Liu Xiu and Jiang Peihuan's conversation, Liu Xin chuckled softly. 1 a.m. quite alright now, no need to fuss over me, auntie. It's just one night stay, no fuss at all. You rest well, later I'll have Jinga bring you the medicine, and also ask Nanny Liu to go back and inform your elder brother. Then I'll have to trouble you, auntie. Seeing that Liu Xiu had everything arranged, Liu Xin didn't refuse any further and just nodded with a smile. "Third aunt, I will head back first." "All right, take it slow on your way, and remember to have Yi Xiao check on you when you get back." Millimeter. Nodding her head and bidding Liu Xiu goodbye, Jiang Peihuan left the elegant garden. Seeing this, Jiang Ruyun also followed and left. "Elder sister, today's incident won't cause any trouble, right?" After leaving the elegant garden, Jiang Ruyun turned to Jiang Peihuan and asked. Seeing the confusion in Jiang Peihuan's eyes, Jiang Ruyun continued, "When you and Miss Liu fell into the water today, I saw it clearly. Those people were clearly arranged by Prince Qing. Don't worry, there won't be any issues." Chapter 107, Xiao Junhao's scheme. Seeing the worry in Jiang Ruyun's eyes, Jiang Peihuan gently started to speak. Before she could say anything else, Jiang Peihuan continued, "You're tired today, too. You should go home and rest early." After parting ways with Jiang Ruyun, Jiang Peihuan returned directly to her own elegant garden. "Eldest miss." Just as she reached the entrance, she saw Yi Xiao waiting there. After greeting Jiang Peihuan, Yi Xiao softly said, "Miss, please let me check on you." Jiang Peihuan didn't refuse, and after she entered her room, she stretched out her hand. After carefully taking Jiang Peihuan's pulse and confirming that she had no health issues, Yi Xiao finally released her hand. "By the way, have there been any developments these past few days?" For the past few days, Jiang Peihuan had assigned Yi Xiao a task, to keep an eye on Jian Mai. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's question, Yi Xiao nodded. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, she lowered her voice. "Miss, the news of you and the second miss going out today was leaked by Aunt Mai." Hearing this, a flash of surprise appeared in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. She had been curious about how Xiao Juanhao had found out about their whereabouts. Now, she understood. How did she leak the information? The old woman Wang, who guards the back gate, was bribed by Aunt Mai. "Miss, do you want me to bring that old woman Wang here?" "No need for now." Hearing Yi Xiao's words, Jiang Peihuan shook her head, tapping her fingers lightly on the table. "One want to see what her goal is, so let's keep this old woman Wang for now. But in the meantime, I'll need you to keep an eye on them." "Don't worry, miss. I know what to do." With Yi Xiao's skills, tracking two people was nothing. Therefore, after giving her instructions, Jiang Peihuan didn't say anything more. After changing her clothes, Jiang Peihuan went to Yanglin. Since Jiang Hong's vacation ended, he had become busy again, so Shui Yang was often alone in Yanglin. And because Jiang Xijin also went to the military camp, worried that Shui Yang would be lonely, Jiang Peihuan had dinner at Yanglin every night. When Jiang Peihuan arrived at Yanglin, she saw Shui Yang sewing clothes, which were clearly for Jiang Hong. "Mother, did you see the doctor? Are you all right?" Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, Shui Yang put down the clothes in her hands and looked at her carefully. Seeing that she is fine, she finally sighed in relief. Sitting down next to Shui Yang, Jiang Peihuan softly said, "Don't worry, Mother, I'm fine. Not wanting to worry Shui Yang, Jiang Peihuan quickly changed the topic. Mother, are you sewing clothes for father? Your father only wears clothes that I sew for him. I didn't have time while one was in the military, but now that one have nothing to do at home, one can make more clothes for him. Shui Yang's eyes softened when she talked about Jiang Hong. Seeing the expression in her eyes, Jiang Peihuan also showed a slight smile. She couldn't help but remember this time in her past life when Jiang Changbai had already passed away, and both Shui Yang and Jiang Hong were deeply affected. Now, seeing her parents and brother well, Jiang Peihuan felt a great joy in her heart. Huan I'm talking to you. Why are you spacing out? Seeing that Jiang Peihuan was distracted, Shui Yang couldn't help but raise her voice a little. Hearing Shui Yang's voice, Jiang Peihuan snapped out of her thoughts and looked at her, quietly asking, "What did mother just say?" I asked, "Do you want to learn to sew clothes?" Me. You and King Cheng have already set the marriage date, and several days have already passed since the 3rd month. According to the customs of Qi Kingdom, you should prepare some clothes for him before your big wedding. Although the embroiderers can do it on your behalf, it's not as sincere as making it yourself. What do you say, should one teach you? Seeing the confusion in Jiang Peihuan's eyes, Shui Yang asked with a smile. However, upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan quickly shook her head. No need, I can have the embroiderers prepare it. Hearing this, Shui Yang didn't insist. After dinner, Jiang Peihuan returned to her own palm garden. The room was already lit, and Jiang Peihuan thought it was Yu. But when she opened the door, she saw Xiao Nanya sitting at the table. At this moment, he was drinking tea from Jiang Peihuan's usual teacup. Back already? Seeing Jiang Peihuan, the man put down his teacup and spoke softly. Compared to before, Jiang Peihuan seemed to be getting more used to this man suddenly appearing in her room. She moved closer, sat on the chair next to him, and then began to speak. Your Highness, did you find out about my fall into the water today? Indeed. When Jiang Peihuan mentioned this, Xiao Nanya's eyes darkened for a moment. Seeing the coldness in his eyes, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but ask, what's the reason? Xiao Juanhao has indeed played a good game. Then, Xiao Nanya softly relayed what Han Feng had investigated. From his words, Jiang Peihuan understood Xiao Junhao's schemes. Refurbishing the palace required a lot of money, which Xiao Juanhao didn't have. As a demoted prince, he didn't dare to ask the emperor for more funds, so he turned his sights on the Liu family. A few million taels of silver was an astronomical figure to others, but it was nothing to the Liu family. So Xiao Juanhao planned to rescue Liu Xin when she fell into the water, using the opportunity to bring her into his household. As the only legitimate daughter of the Liu family, if she was under his control, the Liu family would become Xiao Junhao's moneybag. Understanding this, Jiang Peihuan's eyes filled with ridicule. He really never changes. In her past life, he deceived her feelings for power. Now, in this life, he wants to deceive Liu Xin for money, which is very much in line with Xiao Junhao's character. Xin was saved by my elder brother, and now his scheme will fail. Thump, thump. As Jiang Peihuan's words trailed off, there was a knock at the door. Eldest miss, there's trouble in the 3rd lady's courtyard. Yu's voice came from the doorway, her tone full of urgency. Hearing her words, Jiang Peihuan couldn't bother about Xiao Nanya being there and immediately opened the door. What happened to my 3rd aunt? It's not 3rd madam, it's Miss Liu. In the elegant garden. Miss Liu, my prince is willing to take you as his wife, which would be a blessing for the Liu family. Please come with me. Even the Prince Qing can't force marriage. Moreover, this is Jiang's mansion. One ask guard pay to leave. To be a wife, it might sound nice, but it's just being a lesser concubine. In the prince's residence, aside from the princess, there are also side consorts, and wives among others, but a wife is just the lowest ranking concubine. Hearing Pei Wu's words, Liu Xiu's eyes were full of anger. Pei Wu wasn't surprised by Liu Xiu's reaction. After she finished speaking, he directly said, 3rd madam, I think you wouldn't want to cause trouble for your maternal family, would you? Chapter 108. Knocking on the door to claim. After all, the general's mansion is now run by the great general. When he finished the last sentence, a faint sneer appeared in Pei Wu's eyes. On hearing these words, Liu Xiu was full of struggle and hesitation. You know who the head of the general's mansion is, yet you dare to act so arrogantly here. Get out. Suddenly, a cold voice came from the entrance of the elegant garden. Seeing Jiang Peihuan appear, Liu Xiu breathed a sigh of relief, while Liu Xin had red-rimmed eyes. Jiang Peihuan walked up to Liu Xiu, bowed to her, and then turned to Liu Xin, saying, "Don't be afraid, no one can take you away from the general's mansion." Eldest Miss, taking Miss Liu into the residence was the prince's command. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Pei Wu looked somewhat displeased. He was about to retort, but before he could finish his words, he felt a cold gust of wind rushing towards him. It turned out that Jiang Peihuan had already pulled out the long whip at her waist, and lashed out at Pei Wu, who dodged instinctively. Jiang Peihuan didn't stop. She advanced. In her previous life, Xiao Juanhao was the one who caused the destruction of the Jiang family, but the man before her was an accomplice. New and old grudges combined, Jiang Peihuan couldn't kill Pei Wu, but it was alright to teach him a lesson. Thinking of the past, Jiang Peihuan's movements became even more fierce. Although Pei Wu was agile, this was after all the general's mansion. Therefore, he didn't dare to do anything to Jiang Peihuan and could only try his best to dodge. As a result, he was already hit by the whip several times. Jiang Peihuan was relentless. In an instant, several bloody marks appeared on Pei Wu's body. Seeing that Jiang Peihuan had no intention of stopping, he pulled out his long sword, fury in his eyes. "You dog servant! In the presence of this king, you dare to lay a hand on my fiancé who has not yet passed the door. Are you tired of living? Han Feng, cut off his head for me." Xiao Nanya had arrived earlier, but he did not say a word while Jiang Peihuan was teaching Pei Wu a lesson. As soon as he saw Pei Wu draw his long sword, he immediately turned to Han Feng at his side. Upon hearing his master's command, Han Feng stepped forward immediately. Although both were shadow guards, Pei Wu was no match for Han Feng. "Han Feng, don't kill him." When Jiang Peihuan saw Han Feng's dagger stabbing towards Pei Wu's neck, she shouted in a low voice. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, Han Feng immediately stopped his action. However, he kicked Pei Wu to the ground. When Pei Wu fell, he vomited blood, and his face turned pale instantly. Jiang Peihuan stepped forward, looked down at Pei Wu on the ground, and said coldly, "Go back and tell your master to give up this idea, or he will face bigger trouble." Pei Wu stared at Jiang Peihuan with gloomy eyes. Seeing Xiao Nanya standing aside, he dared not say a word. Once Jiang Peihuan had finished speaking, Xiao Nanya turned to Han Feng and said, "Throw him out." "Yes, master." Han Feng went forward, grabbed Pei Wu by the collar, and dragged him away. Seeing that only women were left, Xiao Nanya came to Jiang Peihuan and spoke softly, "I'm leaving first." Millimeter. Seeing Jiang Peihuan nod, the man left directly. "Huan thank you so much for today." After Xiao Nanya left, Liu Xiu quickly turned to Jiang Peihuan. Upon hearing her words, Jiang Peihuan replied softly, "Third aunt, I've told you many times, we're family, don't be so polite." "Miss Jiang, thank you so much for today. But this matter started because of me, so one plan to go home. If you go home now, you will certainly be taken away by the people of the Qing Prince's mansion. But if I stay in General Mansion, one will bring trouble to General Mansion." Most importantly, Liu Xin didn't want to make things difficult for Liu Xiu. Although Liu Xiu never said anything, Liu Xin knew very well that her aunt's marriage into the Jiang family was a case of social climbing. She didn't want to cause trouble for Liu Xiu because of her own affairs. "Xin one understand what you're thinking, but going home is not the solution. We need to find a solution as soon as possible. Madam, young Master Liu has come." As soon as Jiang Peihuan's words fell, she saw Jing'e walking towards them, followed by Liu Hao. Liu Hao's eyes were filled with anxiety. Only when he saw Liu Xin still standing there safe and sound, did he breathe a sigh of relief. After taking a deep breath, he stepped forward and greeted, "Auntie, eldest miss. How are you here because the Prince Qing's mansion wants to take Xin in?" "Correct." Upon hearing Liu Xiu's words, Liu Hao nodded. Looking at Liu Xiu, Liu Hao directly asked, Auntie, could Shin stay with you for a few days? Of course. Shin can stay in my garden until this issue is resolved. But what about the old Madame Jiang and the great general? Liu Hao was well aware of Liu Xiu's situation at the general's mansion. Seeing Liu Xiu's ready agreement, his eyes showed some worry. Cousin Liu, rest assured. One will talk to my father and grandmother about this. Before Liu Xiu could respond, Jiang Peihuan spoke softly. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Liu Hao, full of gratitude, stepped forward and bowed solemnly to Jiang Peihuan. Thank you, eldest miss, on behalf of Liu Hao. In the future, if the eldest miss needs anything from the Liu family, I will not hesitate to help. I do have a favor to ask, cousin Liu. Please speak, eldest miss. There was a hint of surprise in Liu Hao's eyes, but being an experienced businessman, his expression quickly returned to normal. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, he respectfully said, I heard the Liu family's ships can sail overseas, is it true? Yes, indeed, we do have routes to overseas. In a few days, it's the Emperor's 50th birthday. As the royal family's merchant, one assume the Liu family will present birthday gifts in the palace? Yes, I personally deliver the gifts every year. Liu Hao did not know what Jiang Peihuan's intentions were, but he answered seriously. Upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan's eyes sparkled with a hint of a smile. In the next few days, I hope cousin Liu can prepare some special items, ones that are eye-catching but do not carry good implications. Try to send them to the Prince Qing's mansion. I believe this should not be difficult for cousin Liu, right? If Liu Hao didn't understand Jiang Peihuan's meaning before, now he understood perfectly. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, his eyes lit up, filled with excitement. One understand your meaning, eldest miss. Don't worry, eldest miss. I will take care of this personally and make sure you are satisfied. Thank you, cousin Liu. Knowing Liu Hao was smart, Jiang Peihuan smiled and spoke softly. Chapter 109, Sewing a Coat for Xiao Nanya. After a brief conversation with Liu Xiu, Liu Hao left Elegant Garden. As he left, Liu Xiu turned to Jiang Peihuan and asked in a soft voice, Huan you had Hao fetch those things. Do you intend for the Prince Qing to present them to the Emperor? Yes. Seeing Jiang Peihuan nod, Liu Xiu's eyes filled with doubt. If we present such things to the Emperor, he would certainly be enraged. Wouldn't the Prince Qing bear even more ill will towards the Liu family then? Aunt, even without these things, the Prince Qing is already targeting our family, Liu Xin interjected before Jiang Peihuan could respond. Turning to Liu Xiu and Jiang Peihuan, Liu Xin continued, I've never intentionally provoked these people, but whether it's Yang Quan or the Prince Qing, they view me as a toy. Rather than being at their mercy, I'd prefer to take control of my own fate. Jiang Peihuan looked surprised upon hearing Liu Xin's words. She initially had Liu Hao do these things merely to undermine Xiao Junhao's trust in the Emperor. Now, hearing Liu Xin's words, an idea took shape in her mind. Turning to Liu Xin, she proposed, Liu Xin, I have an idea that might deter the prince. What is it? Before Liu Xin could respond, Liu Xiu, eager to know, spoke out of turn. Looking at the two, Jiang Peihuan said in a low voice, even a prince cannot force a married woman to be his. If Xin can get married immediately, even if the matter reaches the Emperor, the Prince Qing will have no grounds for objection. That's a good plan. But where can we find a suitable family at this time? Since ancient times, selecting a husband was a careful process. If they were to arrange a marriage for Liu Xin now, they wouldn't have much time. But this was not for Jiang Peihuan to worry about. All these considerations fell to the Liu family. After a few more words with Liu Xiu, Jiang Peihuan left Elegant Garden. You help me prepare some elegant, light-colored fabrics, she instructed upon returning to Palm Garden. Remembering the words that Shui Yang had shared with her, Jiang Peihuan thought about the many gifts Xiao Nanya had given her, despite her never having given him anything. The handkerchief, of course, did not count. In the identity of Xiao Nanya, he lacked nothing. After some thought, Jiang Peihuan decided that sewing him a coat could express some of her sentiments. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Yu quickly prepared a few pieces of plain and elegant fabric. Finally, Jiang Peihuan chose a piece of deep blue shoe brocade. "Miss, what do you want to do?" "I can help you," said Yu gathering the remaining fabric and bringing needles and scissors. However, Jiang Peihuan shook her head. "No need, I'll do it myself." "You'll do it yourself?" Yu was filled with confusion. Seeing the expression in her eyes, Jiang Peihuan remembered she didn't yet know how to sew in this life. In her past life, however, she had learned embroidery in order to win over Xiao Juanhao. Although she couldn't compare to a master, she could hold her own. "I learned a bit from my mother," she muttered, picking up the scissors. Yu stood aside, closely watching Jiang Peihuan's actions. This was high-quality shoe brocade, and if Jiang Peihuan were to ruin it, Yu could possibly fix it. But seeing Jiang Peihuan's smooth and proficient cutting motions, Yu was full of surprise. Jiang Peihuan paid no attention to Yu's surprise and carefully recalled Xiao Nanyes' physique. After the time it took to brew a pot of tea, she had cut out all the fabric needed for the clothes. "Miss, are you sewing clothes for the young master?" asked Yu. Jiang Hong's couple was known to have a great relationship, with all their clothes made by Shui Yang. So, upon seeing Jiang Peihuan's cut fabric, Yu's first thought was that they were for Jiang Changbai. However, upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan shook her head. "No, it's not for my elder brother." "Not for the young master?" Yu was stunned, then exclaimed in surprise, "Miss, are you preparing to sew an overcoat for King Cheng?" "Yes." Jiang Peihuan didn't say much, just nodded in confirmation. Seeing Jiang Peihuan's nod, Yu's interest was piqued. All the maids could see Xiao Nanyes' feelings for Jiang Peihuan. Now that she finally showed some interest in him, Yu was very happy. Looking at the fabric on the table, Yu whispered, "Miss, this fabric is rather plain. If it's for King Cheng, shouldn't you embroider some patterns on it?" Hearing Yu's words, Jiang Peihuan carefully examined the fabric in her hands. She remembered that Xiao Nanya always wore simple clothes. After a thought, Jiang Peihuan looked at Yu and said, "Go prepare some silver thread for me." "Yes." Not knowing Jiang Peihuan's intentions, Yu prepared everything she needed. Jiang Peihuan worked swiftly, and 2 hours later, an overcoat was finished. Looking at the garment on the table, Yu couldn't help but speak, "Miss, your sewing skills are impressive, the stitches are almost invisible." Upon hearing Yu's words, Jiang Peihuan smiled but said nothing. Glancing at the sky outside, she spoke softly, "It's getting late. You can rest first." "Yes." Jiang Peihuan preferred not to have anyone staying overnight in her room, so hearing these words, Yu prepared to leave. As she left, she adjusted the lamp to make the room brighter for Jiang Peihuan. Watching Jiang Peihuan picking up the needle and thread again, Yu said softly, "Miss, don't stay up too late, it's bad for your eyes." Millimeter. Seeing Jiang Peihuan nodding, Yu turned and left the room. Perhaps she was used to being focused, so once she started, Jiang Peihuan found it hard to stop. By the time she did, it was already daybreak outside. Looking at the finished garment with its discreet embroidery, Jiang Peihuan gently rubbed her wrist. She used same color thread to create hidden patterns on the entire garment, and used silver thread to edge the sleeves and hem. Looking at the garment in her hands, a smile appeared in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. After a thought, Jiang Peihuan walked to the door and called softly, "Yi Xiao?" "Eldest miss." As soon as Jiang Peihuan's voice fell, Yi Xiao appeared before her. Although a room had been arranged for Yi Xiao, she had been watching over Jian Mai, so she was more accustomed to being up in a tree or on the roof. Following Jiang Peihuan into the room, Yi Xiao looked at her and asked softly, "Miss, do you have any instructions?" Jiang Peihuan neatly folded the garment on the table, and then wrapped it in a clean piece of cloth. Chapter 11. Making a promise. Handing over the clothes to Yi Xiao, she spoke softly, "Please deliver these clothes to King Cheng's mansion for me." Upon seeing the clothes in her hand, a twinkle appeared in Yi Xiao's eyes, as if recalling something. A smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. "Yes, one will go at once," she said. Upon finishing her sentence, Yi Xiao took the clothes from Jiang Peihuan's hands and swiftly left the plum garden. After leaving the plum garden, Yi Xiao headed straight to King Cheng's mansion. In the front courtyard of King Cheng's mansion. Who's there? At the sound, Han Feng immediately unsheathed his long sword. Yi Xiao, why are you here? Spotting the person before him, Han Feng showed a hint of surprise and quickly sheathed his sword. Yi Xiao gave him a cool glance before coldly speaking, "Eldest Miss asked me to find King Cheng. Where's His Highness? The master hasn't woken up yet. What does your lady want? Why don't you tell me first, and Your Highness." Before Han Feng could finish his sentence, a door beside them opened. Seeing Xiao Nanya standing at the doorway, Yi Xiao hurriedly stepped forward. Upon seeing Yi Xiao, Xiao Nanya immediately asked, "Has something happened to Huan Er?" As he spoke, a hint of worry appeared in his eyes. Seeing his expression, Yi Xiao quickly responded, "Eldest Miss is fine. I came here because Eldest Miss instructed me to deliver something to your highness." As she spoke, Yi Xiao offered the clothes in her hands. Accepting the clothes from Yi Xiao, Xiao Nanya immediately unfolded them. Upon seeing the clothes, Xiao Nanya's eyes were filled with delight. Looking at Yi Xiao, he asked in a low voice, "Did Huan Er make these?" "Eldest Miss made them last night, staying up late to do so." Upon hearing Yi Xiao's words, the joy in Xiao Nanya's eyes deepened. However, knowing that Jiang Peihuan had spent the entire night making the clothes, a hint of worry also appeared in his eyes. Looking at Yi Xiao, he asked anxiously, "Huan Er didn't sleep all night?" Recalling the light in Jiang Peihuan's room that had been on the entire night, Yi Xiao nodded. Just as she was about to speak, she saw Xiao Nanya swiftly leave. Looking in the direction he left, she realized he was heading towards the general's mansion. It was already daytime, but Xiao Nanya still habitually climbed over the wall into the plum garden. Arriving at Jiang Peihuan's room, Xiao Nanya unconsciously lightened his steps, carefully pushing open the door. He immediately spotted Jiang Peihuan lying on the bed. Perhaps she was truly exhausted. Even as Xiao Nanya approached, Jiang Peihuan didn't wake up. Having returned to life, Jiang Peihuan's sleep was usually restless. However, the familiar scent of Xiao Nanya seemed to keep her undisturbed. Xiao Nanya sat quietly by the bed, making no noise and simply watching the person on it. During this time, Yu and Lu tried to approach the room, but they were sent away by Xiao Nanya. The two maidservants of the plum garden had grown accustomed to seeing Xiao Nanya in Jiang Peihuan's room, so they quietly withdrew. Uninterrupted, Jiang Peihuan slept straight through to noon. She hadn't slept this long in a long time. When she opened her eyes, she was still a bit groggy, but quickly, Jiang Peihuan's sleepiness vanished. Hearing the approaching footsteps, Jiang Peihuan grabbed her whip and swung it. "Huan Er, your reflexes upon waking are truly surprising." Xiao Nanya caught Jiang Peihuan's whip with one hand and held a teacup in the other, not spilling a drop. Seeing Xiao Nanya let go of the whip and approach, Jiang Peihuan showed a hint of surprise. "Why are you in my room? I came to thank you." As he spoke, Xiao Nanya handed her the teacup. Having slept for so long, Jiang Peihuan was indeed thirsty. Accepting the cup, she drained the contents in one go. "Would you like more?" Naturally taking the empty cup from her, Xiao Nanya asked softly. Jiang Peihuan shook her head. Setting the teacup aside, Xiao Nanya then took out the clothes. In front of Jiang Peihuan, he unbuttoned his own robe. Seeing his actions, Jiang Peihuan was stunned for a moment. After a few seconds, she quickly turned her gaze away and quietly asked, "What are you doing?" Xiao Nanya didn't respond, but after removing his robe, he directly put on the one made by Jiang Peihuan. "Huan Er, look." Hearing Xiao Nanya's voice, Jiang Peihuan lifted her head. The navy blue robe worn by him enhanced his noble demeanor, making him appear even more aloof. The silver border and hidden patterns added an extra touch of elegance. "Does it look good?" Xiao Nanya turned a full circle in front of Jiang Peihuan with a smile on his face, then asked, appearing like a child. "Your Highness came over just to ask me if this dress looks good?" "Yes." Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's response, Xiao Nanya nodded, and then earnestly said, "This outfit was made by you, Huan Er, so naturally, you should be the first to see me wear it." "Huan Er, you still haven't answered my question. Do I look good in this outfit?" Yes. No matter what Xiao Nanya wears, with his handsome face, he can't look ugly. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's response, disappointment flashed in Xiao Nanya's eyes. Huan your reaction is a bit of a letdown. Perhaps realizing that her reaction was somewhat perfunctory, Jiang Peihuan added 2 more words, you look good. Upon hearing this, a smile lit up Xiao Nanya's eyes. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, he laughed and said, one thinks so too. However, as soon as his words were out, he carefully removed the outfit, folding it neatly. Seeing his actions, a look of confusion crossed Jiang Peihuan's face. Your Highness, you don't like the color? No, one like it very much. Then, why did Your Highness take it off? This outfit was made by Huan Er's own hands, it's very precious, I want to preserve it carefully. How could one casually wear such a valuable item and risk damaging it? Clothes are meant to be worn, Your Highness. Wear it without worries, if it gets damaged, one can make a new one for you. Hearing Xiao Nanya's words, Jiang Peihuan responded reflexively, but immediately regretted her words. However, satisfaction filled Xiao Nanya's eyes when he heard her words, if that's the case, then I look forward to Huan Er's handmade clothes. As he spoke, he had already put on the outfit he had just folded neatly. Knock, knock, miss, the 3rd madam asks for you. At this point, a knock came from the door, followed by Yu Er's voice. Upon hearing Yu Er's voice, Jiang Peihuan responded, looking towards the door, tell my 3rd aunt that I will be right there. The sound of footsteps gradually faded from the door. Chapter 111, A Gift Your Highness, my 3rd aunt is looking for me, what about you? You go to 3rd madam, I am going back to the mansion. With that, Xiao Nanya walked towards the door. However, as he reached the entrance, he paused, turned to look at Jiang Peihuan, and chuckled softly, Huan don't forget to make me a new outfit. Watching the man leave, Jiang Peihuan suddenly felt a hint of regret. Master, are we going back to the mansion now? Xiao Nanya had just come out of Jiang Peihuan's room when Han Feng descended from a tree. Instead of answering Han Feng's question, Xiao Nanya looked at him and asked, what do you think of this outfit I'm wearing? Hearing Xiao Nanya's question, Han Feng carefully examined his master's coat, then softly said, Master, you look very handsome in this coat. Not bad, you have good taste. The sword you like, go get it yourself later. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Miss Han Feng silently added the last part in his heart. He had had his eye on that ancient sword for a long time, but Xiao Nanya had shown no signs of letting go of it. Han Feng had prepared himself for the disappointment of not getting it, but then happiness came so unexpectedly. Han Feng was very grateful to Xiao Nanya, but he knew that the person he should be most grateful to was Jiang Peihuan. After leaving the general's mansion, Xiao Nanya mounted his horse, and after a moment of silence, he said, let's go to the palace. Hearing Xiao Nanya's words, Han Feng felt a strange sympathy for Emperor Qi Ming. Looking at the time, it was almost Emperor Qi Ming's birthday. It was time for his master to pull another trick. At the general's mansion, in the elegant garden. 3rd aunt. Huan come and sit down quickly. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, Liu Xiu immediately responded. Sister Jiang, eldest miss. After reaching the small garden, Jiang Peihuan noticed the Liu siblings. Nodding at them, Jiang Peihuan sat down on a chair nearby. As soon as she sat down, Liu Hao spoke up, eldest miss, the gift has been delivered to the Prince Qing's mansion. Oh! I wonder what rare treasure cousin Liu has sent to the Prince Qing's mansion. It's not a rare treasure, it's a sea hawk. Hearing Liu Hao's words, a look of surprise flashed in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. The sea hawk is a symbol of good luck in many countries. Liu Hao's choice of gift was quite unusual. Cousin Liu, is there anything special about this sea hawk? I got the sea hawk by chance, and with a little more taming, it could have been rid of its wild nature. What would happen if the wild nature is not removed? It could easily hurt people. Hearing this, a smile curled up at the corner of Jiang Peihuan's mouth. Xiao Juanhao, this time, I am curious to see what you will do. In the Imperial Palace, on the main hall square. Imperial Father, this is a sea hawk I specially found to celebrate your birthday. Xiao Juanhao knelt before Emperor Qiming, looking at the sea hawk in the cage beside him, his eyes full of smiles. The sea hawk was rare and considered a sign of good luck. Which emperor wouldn't like lucky items? Because of Xiao Junhao's private fundraising from the officials, Emperor Qiming had never had a good impression of him. But now, looking at the sea hawk in the cage, Emperor Qiming's eyes were full of smiles. You are considerate. Has this sea hawk been tamed? In reply to father, I have tamed it. Good. Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, the smile in Emperor Qiming's eyes deepened. Pointing to the sea hawk, he said directly, in that case, let this sea hawk out. I haven't seen a sea hawk in a long time. Yes. Open the cage. The cage was carried by two young eunuchs. Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, they quickly opened the cage. The sea hawk inside instantly flew out, rushing into the sky. Seeing this, Emperor Qiming was completely satisfied. Good, this sea hawk is very robust. Xiao Juanhao got up and walked to Emperor Qiming, bending his right index finger and putting it to his lips. Then, he whistled, and the sea hawk circling in the sky immediately flew towards Xiao Juanhao. Prince Qing's falconry skills are amazing. He does have the air of the emperor when he was young. Many officials had come to the palace today, and they now watched the robust sea hawk, their praises for Xiao Juanhao overflowing. But then, the expressions on their faces quickly changed. Look. The sea hawk was indeed flying towards Xiao Juanhao, but it was charging towards Emperor Qiming. Seeing its outstretched claws, Wang Kun's face was full of panic. Guards, quick, protect the emperor. Emperor Qiming, seeing the sea hawk extended claws, also revealed a hint of panic. Witnessing this scene, Xiao Juanhao quickly made a sound, but this sound not only did not stop the sea hawk, but rather, it seemed to stimulate it, making its actions even more fierce. Your Majesty, be careful. Vile beast, you dare to hurt people. Just as the sea hawk claws were about to land on Emperor Qiming, Xiao Nanye descended from the sky, standing directly in front of Emperor Qiming. He raised his hand to block, and the sea hawk claws immediately latched onto Xiao Nanye's arm. Several deep gashes instantly appeared on Xiao Nanye's arm. You're seeking death. Seeing his own sleeve torn apart in an instant, Xiao Nanye's eyes were filled with fury. He pulled out a folding fan from his hand and swung it at the sea hawk. The sea hawk wings were directly slashed, and it let out a harsh, miserable cry, falling to the ground. But even so, the sea hawk still struggled to rush towards Emperor Qiming. Watching this scene, Xiao Nanye raised his leg and kicked the sea hawk. Xiao Nanye put a fair amount of force into this kick, and the sea hawk died on the spot. Imperial brother, are you alright? I'm fine. Emperor Qiming's face was still a bit pale, but hearing Xiao Nanye's words, he shook his head. Seeing the wound on his arm, Emperor Qiming quickly turned to Wang Kuan. Quick, go and fetch the royal doctor. Yes. Upon hearing Emperor Qiming's command, Wang Kuan hastily ran off. Looking at the sea hawk lying motionless on the ground, Xiao Junhao's face was full of discomfort. After a moment of silence, he immediately knelt before Emperor Qiming. Imperial father, your son deserves to die. Get out. Before Xiao Juanhao could finish his words, Emperor Qiming interrupted him coldly. Seeing that Emperor Qiming was furious, Xiao Nanye whispered, Imperial brother, taming Seahawk is no easy task. Prince Qing must have been impatient, he didn't mean to. If you can't do it, don't show off. Making a fool of yourself. Xiao Nanye hadn't started speaking yet, but as soon as he did, Emperor Qiming's anger that had just subsided, flared up again. Looking at Xiao Juanhao, Emperor Qiming said coldly, leave the palace immediately. Without my command, you are not allowed to enter the palace again. Chapter 112, Taking Advantage to Rob Imperial Father? Get lost. Xiao Juanhao tried to explain, but as soon as he began, Emperor Qiming rebuked him angrily. Prince Qing, it's better if you leave the palace now. Don't further infuriate the emperor. Xiao Nanye, who was standing on the side, gently interjected after witnessing the scene. Upon hearing Xiao Nanye's words, Xiao Junhao's eyes filled with gloom. He dared not argue, instead, He bowed to Emperor Qiming and left the palace. As he turned away, the kindness on Xiao Junhao's face vanished instantly, replaced by an intense gloom. He feared that he would not even be able to attend the emperor's birthday feast this time. "Your Majesty, are you okay?" Upon hearing the news, the empress rushed over, her eyes filled with concern for Emperor Qiming. Seeing the concern in the empress' eyes, Emperor Qiming grabbed her hand. "Empress, don't worry, I'm fine. It's good to know that you are fine. I was scared to death when I heard the news. Imperial sister-in-law, rest assured. As long as I'm here, I will not let the emperor be in danger." The empress knew about the situation on her way here. Naturally, she also knew that it was Xiao Nanye who had blocked for the emperor. Seeing the wound on Xiao Nanye's arm, the empress said softly, "Nanye, we are lucky to have you today. Where is the royal doctor? Why hasn't he arrived yet?" "Your Majesty, Nyang Nyang, the royal doctor has arrived." As soon as the empress finished speaking, she saw Wang Kuan rush over, followed by the chief of the Royal Doctor Institute. "Greetings, Emperor." "Greetings, Empress." "Greetings, no need for formalities, quickly check King Cheng's hand for injuries. Make sure no scars are left. Don't worry, Imperial sister-in-law, 1 man. A few scars won't matter." Hearing this, the empress smiled and said nothing more. Then, the head of the institute checked Xiao Nanye's wound. "Your Highness, your wound is deep. Don't get it wet for a few days, and take good care of it." The head himself applied medicine to Xiao Nanye, and then bandaged the wound. The emperor and the empress quietly sat on the side. Seeing that Xiao Nanye's wound was well dressed, Emperor Qiming asked the chief, "Is King Cheng's wound harmful to his health?" "Your Majesty, rest assured, Prince Cheng's martial arts are strong, and he is physically healthy. He will recover in no time." "That's good to know. I told you I'm fine. There's no need for both of you to worry." Hearing the conversation between the emperor and the chief, Xiao Nanye laughed and said, with an appearance of unconcern. The empress looked at Xiao Nanye's torn sleeve and told the maid beside her, "Didn't you see that His Highness King Cheng's clothes are torn? Quickly prepare a new set for him." "No need, Imperial sister-in-law." Hearing the empress' words, Xiao Nanye quickly responded. Seeing Xiao Nanye's reaction, the empress looked puzzled. She glanced at his clothes, as if realizing something, and laughed, "You seem to really cherish these clothes. They must be special, aren't they? What's special about these clothes?" Emperor Qiming, upon hearing the conversation, involuntarily looked at Xiao Nanye's clothes, but couldn't find anything special. In contrast, Xiao Nanye's eyes softened at the words. Looking at the empress, he laughed softly, "Please stop teasing me, Imperial sister-in-law." All right, one won't tease you anymore. I still have matters to attend to, so I'll return to the Kuan-Ning Palace first." After saying this, the empress looked at Emperor Qiming, bowed, and spoke softly, "Your Majesty, I shall take my leave now. I'll come to you for dinner tonight." "Yes, I'll be waiting for your Majesty." After the empress left, Emperor Qiming turned to Xiao Nanye. "Those clothes are made by Miss Jiang from the Jiang family, aren't they?" Emperor Qiming made an affirmative statement, and Xiao Nanye didn't deny it, he simply nodded, "Yes, indeed. They were made by Huan Er. It seems, you are quite satisfied with Miss Jiang." As he said this, there was a complex look in Emperor Qiming's eyes. Xiao Nanye, seemingly oblivious to the deep meaning in his eyes, just smiled and said, "Huan Er comes from a family of warriors and has a straightforward personality. She suits my taste. Unlike other officials' daughters, who appear weak and helpless, and just annoy me." "You." Hearing Xiao Nanye's candid words, a hint of a smile appeared in Emperor Qiming's eyes. At this moment, Xiao Nanye suddenly leaned towards Emperor Qiming, grinning, "Imperial brother?" Seeing the look in Xiao Nanye's eyes, Emperor Qiming directly shifted to the side. "What do you want now? I'll have you know, you've already emptied my private collection. Imperial brother, considering the blood I've shed for you today, shouldn't you compensate me a little? I've heard that you've recently acquired quite a few treasures, Imperial brother." Xiao Nanye's eyes brightened as he spoke the last sentence. "Are you a robber?" "Don't worry, Imperial brother. I'm just going to have a look. You can go about your business and leave me be." With that, Xiao Nanya stood up and walked towards the back of the Chenqing palace. Watching his retreating figure, Emperor Qi Ming's face was full of fury, but his eyes lacked any sign of displeasure. Look at this kid, he's always robbing me. Shall I stop King Cheng, so he doesn't empty your private collection, Your Majesty? Wang Kuan, who was standing to the side, suggested tentatively after hearing Emperor Qi Ming's words. Emperor Qi Ming glanced at him, spoke indifferently, let it be, they're just things. If he wants them, he can take them. Hearing Qi Ming Emperor's words, Wang Kuan twitched the corners of his mouth, but didn't say anything. Were they just things? Almost half of the items in King Cheng's residence were moved from Emperor Qi Ming's private collection. Master, Han Feng was waiting at the palace gate. As soon as he saw Xiao Nanya coming out, he immediately approached. You're injured. Just a minor injury, nothing to worry about. Xiao Nanya mounted his horse and pointed to the boxes behind him. Take these to the plum garden. Yes. Han Feng had become numb to Xiao Nanya sending things to Jiang Peihuan. Taking a few boxes from the eunuch, Han Feng also mounted his horse. After leaving the palace, Xiao Nanya went straight to the plum garden. Jiang Peihuan was practicing calligraphy. She hadn't practiced in a while. Just as she picked up the brush, she heard familiar footsteps. Jiang Peihuan instinctively turned her head. When she was stunned, the ink from the brush dripped onto the paper, ruining her work. Putting down the brush, Jiang Peihuan looked at Xiao Nanya with annoyance. Your Highness, do you consider this your own yard? Are you injured, Your Highness? Before Xiao Nanya could speak, he saw Jiang Peihuan walking towards him. As she got closer, Jiang Peihuan smelled the strong scent of blood. Looking down, she saw his injured arm. Your Highness, were you attacked again? Chapter 113, A Gift of Well-Being. It wasn't an assassination. What was it then? Facing Jiang Peihuan's puzzled expression, Xiao Nanya briefly explained what happened in the palace, then continued, the royal doctor has examined my injury, it's nothing serious, it will heal in a few days. But this clothes, Huan you may have to mend this. Your Highness still wants to wear these clothes? Of course, this was handmade by you. To me, it is more precious than any treasure. I came to ask you if this torn part can be mended. Upon hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan's eyes were full of surprise. She unconsciously looked into Xiao Nanya's eyes, but saw his eyes full of worry. There was a complex look in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. He's the brother of the emperor, he could have any kind of clothes he wanted. She thought so in her heart and then said, Your Highness, given your status, you can have any clothes you want, why do you need to? It's not the same. The man softly interrupted Jiang Peihuan, then smiled and said, although this outfit is not expensive, it was made with your heart, Huan It is something that nothing else can compare to. His gaze was deep to begin with. When he looked at someone with focus, you could clearly see your reflection in his eyes. It was as if his eyes held only you. Jiang Peihuan couldn't bear to meet his gaze and quickly turned her eyes away. I will get the needle and thread. A moment later, Jiang Peihuan came back with the needle and thread, looked at Xiao Nanya, and gently said, please take off your clothes. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Xiao Nanya directly unbuttoned his shirt. Taking the shirt from his hands, Jiang Peihuan looked at the torn sleeve. The damaged area was very obvious, it couldn't be mended, so she took a matching silk thread and embroidered a few bamboo leaves over the torn part. While Jiang Peihuan was embroidering, Xiao Nanya sat quietly by her side. Seeing her skillful needlework, Xiao Nanya looked somewhat puzzled. He had asked Han Feng to investigate Jiang Peihuan, but she had never learned embroidery. And the previous incident at the moat. Huan when did you learn to swim? Hiss, Xiao Nanya's words caused Jiang Peihuan's finger to tremble, and the needle directly pierced her fingertip. Let me see. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's gasp of pain, Xiao Nanya quickly stepped forward, took her hand, and seeing the blood on her fingertip, the man's eyes showed a trace of remorse. Lowering his head, he took her finger into his mouth. The warm breath enveloped Jiang Peihuan's fingertip instantly, and she could even feel a bit of heat. Looking at the man standing in front of her, Jiang Peihuan's eyes were filled with surprise. Feeling the taste of blood disappearing, he let go of her hand. Jiang Peihuan quickly covered her hand with a handkerchief. It's my fault, I shouldn't have asked. Hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan's eyelids fluttered. She had thought that no one noticed she could swim at that time. It turned out that Xiao Nanya had seen it. After thinking for a while, she said softly, after one fell into the water last time, one specifically learned. Unwilling to continue the topic, Xiao Nanya brought up the matter of Xiao Junhao's gift. This time, he probably won't have time to trouble the Liu family again. No. Looking at Xiao Nanya, Jiang Peihuan explained the origin of the Seahawk, and then continued, this Seahawk is a gift I specifically prepared for Prince Qing through my cousin from the Liu family. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Xiao Nanya raised an eyebrow. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, the man said softly with a smile, Huan it seems that you really dislike him. Yes, one detest Prince Qing deeply. Seeing the confusion deepen in Xiao Nanya's eyes, Jiang Peihuan changed the subject, picked up the clothes in her hand, and said to the man in front of her, I have mended the clothes, do you think they're suitable? Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Xiao Nanya didn't continue the topic, but put on the clothes. Looking at the unique embroidery on his arm, the man smiled and said, with Huan mending, it looks even better than before. Jiang Peihuan smiled, not saying anything. Are you practicing calligraphy? As he spoke, Xiao Nanya walked towards Jiang Peihuan's desk. There were already several pieces of calligraphy on it. Xiao Nanya picked up a piece. It read family harmony, prosperity in all things. Jiang Peihuan's handwriting was very bold. If it wasn't for the wet ink on it, Xiao Nanya would hardly believe this handwriting came from her hand. Because the characters didn't look like they were written by a teenager, but more like they were written by an elder who had lived for decades. Is my handwriting unbearable to look at? Seeing Xiao Nanya staring at her handwriting, Jiang Peihuan came over and joked. Hearing her words, Xiao Nanya laughed out loud. If Huan'er's handwriting is unbearable, I wonder how many so-called calligraphers would be ashamed. As he spoke, Xiao Nanya picked up the paper and brush beside him. He glanced at Jiang Peihuan and wrote a few characters on the paper. Jiang Peihuan lowered her gaze to the writing desk. Words sprang out from the paper, to win one's heart, never to part till death. Xiao Nanya's handwriting was as sharp and powerful as himself, with distinct edges, yet it possessed an indescribable ease. Suddenly, Xiao Nanya handed the brush to Jiang Peihuan. Meeting her puzzled expression, he spoke softly, Can you gift me a piece of your writing? What does your highness want me to write? Anything, at your will. Hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan unconsciously looked at him. He wore a royal blue robe, his jet-black hair just tied up, eyes bright under his sharp eyebrows. After a moment's thought, Jiang Peihuan wrote down 2 characters on the paper, peace and health. 2 simple characters, yet they conveyed Jiang Peihuan's blessings. Upon seeing the 2 characters, Xiao Nanya showed surprise in his eyes, but then, they were full of tenderness. He picked up the piece of paper and blew on it gently, I won't let you down. Carrying the calligraphy, he walked outside, saying as he walked, I'll leave the writing on the desk to you. One must return to my mansion now. Xiao Nanya's figure quickly disappeared at the door. Watching the closed door, Jiang Peihuan unconsciously looked at the writing on the desk. A hint of a smile appeared in her eyes, as if she had thought of something. Han Feng had been waiting in the tree for a long time, and if Xiao Nanya did not come out, he would really fall asleep. Hearing the sound, he quickly flew down from the tree. Master, what is this? Seeing the white paper in Xiao Nanya's hand, Han Feng was all surprised, but when he looked down, he saw the 2 characters, peace and health. This was not their master's handwriting. Master, is this a gift from the eldest miss? Yes. Eldest miss handwriting is really good. I'll also ask for a piece of her writing later. I wonder if she would be willing to give it. Chapter 114, Zhongyu's premature birth. When Xiao Nanya heard Han Feng's initial words, there was a hint of laughter in his eyes. But as the sentence ended, his smile vanished abruptly. With cold eyes, he glared at Han Feng and spoke in a chilling tone, You dare. Master, I was just saying. Faced with Xiao Nanya's gaze, Han Feng hastily corrected himself. During dinner, Jiang Peihuan took Yu to visit Shui Yang in Yanglin. Just as they were about to reach the entrance, they saw Shui Yang rushing out, looking upset. "Mother, where are you going?" Seeing Jiang Peihuan, Shui Yang's expression softened a little, but her tone was still hurried. "Your auntie Zhong has gone into premature labor. I need to check on her." While speaking, Shui Yang continued walking. Suddenly, Jiang Peihuan remembered Zhong Yu's tragic fate in her previous life. Zhong family, though prestigious, has its roots in Qingju. The emperor, not trusting the Zhong family, decided to marry Zhong Yu, the legitimate daughter of the family, to the Yin family. Currently, Yin Yi, the emperor's uncle-in-law, was in charge of the Yin family. Zhong Yu was married to his young son, Yin Yang. Jiang Peihuan's maternal family was also in Qingju, and Shui Yang and Zhong Yu have been close since childhood. Remembering Zhong Yu's fate, Jiang Peihuan hurriedly caught up with Shui Yang. "Mother, one will accompany you to the Yin family. Your auntie Zhong is giving birth, Huan you better not go." "Mother, have you forgotten? Yi Xiao, who's with me, is skilled in medicine. I can help if I come with you." Upon hearing this, Shui Yang hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Okay, you come with me to the Yin family." Worried about Zhong Yu, both Shui Yang and Jiang Peihuan rode horses directly to the Yin residence. As they approached the gate, they saw a woman hurrying towards them. It was Dong Shui, Zhong Yu's maid. Dong Shui. "Madam, you're finally here. My lady can't hold on much longer. Take me to you quickly." Hearing Dong Shui's words, Shui Yang's face changed, and she rushed inside. Following Dong Shui into the backyard, Jiang Peihuan noticed the lack of people coming and going. As they entered the room, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but question, why isn't Lord Yin at home during such a crucial time for Auntie Zhong's delivery? "Miss, you might not know, but the master has gone to the countryside with Madam Yang." "Where's the doctor?" "They've been sent for, but no one has come yet. My lady told me to fetch you no matter what, as one had no other choice." "All right, let me go in and see you." Taking a few steps forward, Jiang Peihuan heard the painful groans from inside the room. She instantly understood that Zhong Yu's situation was very grim. Shui Yang pushed the door open and entered, followed by Jiang Peihuan. Shui Yang initially wanted to stop her, but Jiang Peihuan had already entered. "Sister Yang, is that you?" Lying on the bed, Zhong Yu was utterly exhausted. However, hearing the sound of the door opening, she still managed to call out. Shui Yang drew back the curtain and saw Zhong Yu's pale face. Her eyes immediately reddened. "All you, it's me. Dong Shui, why did you go into labor prematurely?" "Mother, we shouldn't dwell on that now. Auntie Zhong is in critical condition. Let's have Yi Xiao examine her first." "Huan you came too?" Hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, Zhong Yu managed to speak, despite her hoarse throat. Seeing her condition, Jiang Peihuan quickly approached her. "Auntie Zhong, my maid here is exceptional in medicine. She will ensure the safety of both you and the child. But you must hang in there." Zhong Yu had already believed she wouldn't survive the day, which is why she wanted to see Shui Yang one last time. Now, hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, a glimmer of hope appeared in her eyes, but she couldn't help saying, "Huan the child is only 7 months old. With such an early delivery, Auntie Zhong, there's an old saying, survival at 7 months, unlikely at 8. Trust me." Perhaps because Jiang Peihuan's tone was so determined, Zhong Yu's eyes suddenly sparkled. Grasping Jiang Peihuan's hand tightly, she whispered, "All right, Huan I trust you. 111 do as you say." When Zhong Yu held her hand, Jiang Peihuan quietly checked her pulse. Noticing that Zhong Yu's breath was very weak, she quickly turned to Dong Shui and said, "Is there any ginseng, preferably 100-year-old ginseng? Cut some for Auntie Zhong to take, and brew some ginseng water for her to drink." "Yes, one will go get it right away. Eldest Miss, Madam Yin's fetus is malpositioned. One need to massage her acupoints to adjust the position of the baby in her abdomen. But this massage is very painful, and I'm worried that Madam Yin may not be able to bear it. I can handle it, start as soon as you can." Before Jiang Peihuan could respond to Yi Xiao's words, Zhong Yu gritted her teeth and said. Yi Xiao turned to Jiang Peihuan. Start as soon as the ginseng arrives. This ginseng was saved for my auntie to strengthen her body. How dare you take it privately? Give it back now. My madam is waiting for this ginseng to save her life. Get out of my way. There was a quarrel outside the door. Hearing this, Zhong Yu was filled with anger. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan frowned. She quickly held Zhong Yu's shoulder. Auntie Zhong, don't be upset, calm down. That wretched servant, Zhong Yu breathed deeply, but her eyes were getting angrier. Seeing this, Shui Yang tightly held Zhong Yu's hand. You just focus on giving birth, one will handle the things outside. Huan you take care of your Auntie Zhong. Mother, don't worry. Seeing Jiang Peihuan nod, Shui Yang directly opened the curtain. Outside the door, Dong Shui was being blocked by several maids and family members. The leading maid looked triumphant, her gaze towards Dong Shui full of contempt. You are quite bold, making noise outside the main madam's door. Seeing Shui Yang coming out, Dong Shui's eyes brightened. Shui Yang coldly glanced at the leading maid, then turned to Dong Shui. Dong Shui, aren't you coming in? Madam Jiang, this is the Yin family. Who are you? Before the maid could finish her words, Shui Yang interrupted. Upon hearing Shui Yang's words, the lead maid replied with confidence, one of Madam Yang's personal maid, my name is Qiu Ju. Zhu hit her. Yes, madam. Although Zhu was Shui Yang's maid, she has been practicing martial arts with Shui Yang since childhood. Hearing Shui Yang's words, Zhu kicked Qiu Ju, who spat out a mouthful of blood. This was not the end. Zhu directly pulled out a dagger, and before Qiu Ju could react, her wrist felt intense pain. Zhu had cut her tendon. Qiu Ju screamed. Shui Yang, witnessing this scene, showed no reaction. Dong Shui, go in. Yes, madam. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.